Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, August 21st. The time is now 6:07 PM, and this meeting is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle.
Here.
Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Patel. Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Ship Freeman.
Here.
Madam Clerk, adequate notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger Sentinel, and Desi Talk on December 1st, 2022, and posted main lobby municipal complex on that same date.
Okay, so we have a couple of our service professionals here under time constraints, so we're going to rework the agenda a little bit. We are actually going to start off with item 10 from the Department of Finance. We're going to do the public comments and everything after, just because.
They would be short.
Yeah, from the Department of Finance, A, reported disbursements through August 17th. B, resolution authorizing refund for tax sale certificate redemptions. C, resolution authorizing tax overpayment refunds. D, resolution authorizing water overpayment refunds. E, resolution authorizing successful tax court appeal refunds. F, resolutions requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriations. G, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements, appropriating $20,450,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $19,524,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. H, bond ordinance providing for various water main system improvements, appropriating $9,500,000 thereof, and authorizing the issuance of $9,500,000 bonds or notes. I, bond ordinance providing for pump station rehabilitation and repair for sewer utility, appropriating $18 million thereof, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $18 million bonds or notes. J, bond ordinance providing for the township-wide water meter replacement project for the sewer utility, appropriating $8.85 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of 8.85 bonds or notes. And K, bond ordinance providing for gravity and pressure collection system assessment and rehabilitation for the sewer utility, appropriating $15 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of 15 million bonds or notes of the township to finance the cost thereof. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Patil.
because there are mix of, multiple things here. Most of the board ordinances are under finance, so I would ask the finance. Okay, we have Ken. Thank you. The Council President, questions. Let me start with the first one, the tax refund.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, just out of courtesy for the T&M's
Yes.
professional. Is this in regards to the water and sewer items or for the capital? improvement?
It's on the finance department. I want to start with the E, G, H, I, J, K.
Councilman, we are, T&M made every effort to be here this evening, but they are under a tight time constraint. So if there are questions related to water and sewer, could we do those first?
I have questions about the finances, not about what they are going to do in terms of the work.
But if your questions don't apply, we'll lose our time with T&M and then won't have them tonight to help us.
Okay, I don't understand. You want them to come to the podium and explain what that means?
No, I was just saying we were hoping by going out of order that if there were any questions associated with the water and sewer bond ordinances that were on tonight, that we do those first. That's what we're asking.
That's correct. Oh, that's where my questions are, but those are more, first we'll come to the finance because I have some questions on the finance. And then I will come very specific to those line items for.
Could you do the second part first, if you can?
Absolutely, why not?
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for the interruption.
Okay, let me start with H. Water mains improvement. Who wants to answer the question?
Sir, if you'd like to come up to the podium to be able to address.
I would like to understand, what is the scope of the work for this $9.5 million?
Okay, so that is 4 projects. Water main replacement on McGinnis Avenue, water main replacement on Runyon's Lane, water main replacement on Plainfield Avenue, and the smart hydrant project.
So this include the total cost, engineering,
Yes, that's
planning,
total cost through construction.
through construction, through inspection, throughout.
Exactly.
So these are total 4 locations.
It's 3 locations, and then the smart hydrant is a township-wide program.
Okay, is this anything cross-alliance with any neighboring town? Or this is very specific to Edison Township?
This is specific to Edison Township.
Does this crawl across any other water utilities, like Middlesex Water Company,
No, this is purely Edison work.
pure Edison?
Council President, if I may, just interject here because it's very important that right now we're dealing with engineers' estimates. These projects are pending applications to the Infrastructure Bank with the state of New Jersey for financing. So these amounts are all subject to change, and I just want to emphasize that.
And in fact, that's where Ken and I wanted to cover the finance first and then wanted to go. But anyway, I want to cover there. So this is just a ballpark number estimate.
Yes, ballpark estimate before any design is performed.
Do we know what is the life left on these main walls?
These water mains are, the water mains that are in the program are all old asbestos pipe. They've been in the ground since before the 1970s. when-
Understood. History is history,
Well, that
right?
means they're in the ground for 60-plus years. They're past their design life. They may last another 20 years, but those pipes are the ones that are starting to fail and break more and more frequently.
So do we have study around this all water main system and the record that there are many emergency breakouts?
A study, we have not done a study in Edison. It's sort of industry-wide that those are the most vulnerable types of water main. In particular, there's 2 projects out of the ones I named. McGinnis Ave has a very specific issue that's going on where there's a water quality issue in one home where they keep getting dirty water. The water department has tried various things to try to repair that. They have not been able to figure out a way to do that without actually going in and replacing and extending the main to connect to other service lines. And then there's the other one, which is on Runyon's Lane, is actually a water main extension project because there's a couple homes that are on wells, and those wells are known to be not have great water quality. So the water department wants to extend that water main so that those houses can get picked up by the public water service, and at the same time replace that old asbestos concrete pipe.
Okay, if I don't know, I can go into the details, but we should have at least more than 500 wells in Edison.
These 2 in particular, the wells in particular at this location are of poor quality. That's all.
Understood. But again, that's a whole different question here. But coming back to the main question, you don't know these main walls really in desperate need or it will fail tomorrow. You have not done that study.
There's really no way to know that.
Okay. Is there any reason that this is an emergency?
Well, besides the projects I named that are water quality issues, there's no emergency. The hydrants are not an emergency project. Replacing the existing hydrants with smart hydrants is not an emergency. It's just something that allow the water department to operate better and know when they're having a water main break because it monitors pressure throughout the system.
Understood.
And the Plainfield Ave replacement is not an emergency. It's just a very old pipe where if there was a break, you would have the emergency.
Which one you will consider out of these 3 is a true emergency?
Out of the 3 that I just named, the Runyon's Lane and the McGinnis Ave. I mean, the Runyon's Lane and McGinnis Ave.
Okay.
Council President, if I may interject again,
Yes, Mr. Alberts.
items H, J, and K are all covered by the administrative consent order. And these are things that the town has agreed to with the DEP to address and repair.
Understood, can I have enough of the information on all these items? We are dealing this past probably 25 years. We get the violation year over year, and we get the extension. So that's where I was asking, are we thinking thoroughly for a $100 million project, or we are just doing the patchwork? And those are my questions there. Is it in dire need of repair? Is something is falling apart, and that's why you need to do it? Or this is something because we are going to probably get some stated and let's do it. That's where I'm trying to differentiate, and that's what I'm asking question. Is there an emergency on those specific line item? On I, my impression was all along last few years, we spent millions of dollars on restoring our pump stations. This is $18 million bond. Any one of you can please shed some light on what exactly we're trying to do here?
First off, Councilman, let me get back to the last issue. We've had multiple breaks on these lines.
Council
If you can
President,
please
get a
come to the
microphone.
podium, please.
The DEP does not want us to have asbestos, or any town in New Jersey to have asbestos mains any longer. We identify them, we're supposed to replace them. It's part of the Water Quality Accountability Act, and that's why we're going after those asbestos mains. We have other ones on the line. Runyons, the people's wells are contaminated. They have no way to get potable water to their homes. That's why we want to connect that. We're going to be doing looping in the future, but we have identified multiple mains that need to be replaced, cleaned, or relined at some point. The pump stations, that's all part of
So
the...
let me stop because you went back to the prior line item. Are you aware that we have similar situation that exists with the Middlesex Water Company?
I can't answer that. We have no information on their system.
It's our job as a town to find out, because if we are just saying one part of the town, we want to comply with DEP, whereas the other side of the town, which is the major portion, and we have no knowledge, that's not acceptable at all.
They're a private company.
Understood.
They don't have to give us the information if they do not want to.
I will disagree with that.
I can ask
Those
them,
are
but
the
they don't have to give it
contracted
to me.
companies, those are the private contracted companies through the township. We have leased them this infrastructure. So we have every right to know.
I believe they own the facilities.
If they own, then we should send them, we should ask the information, because it is our job as a safety, because our mayor is the director of safety and security of the residents of this town. Water deals with the safety. If the drinking water is not safe, they are in danger. And if you're saying that we have no knowledge, that's insane.
Well, I can request it, but they don't have to give it to me.
Okay, then we have an ability to shut down, or we don't?
Excuse me?
Do we have ability to shut down them, or we don't?
No.
Do we have ability to sue them?
I would say no, they own the system.
Okay, for your knowledge, this council has sent a letter to intend to sue the Middlesex Water Company.
I was-
Please go back to the history. I have enough of history, that's why I'm asking this question.
Okay, I was unaware of that.
So I think, to the council president, administration, if you can find out if similar emergencies exist with Middlesex Water Company, any asbestos pipes, main walls, or anything, because that's a safety issue for me. Okay, let's talk about I. Pump stations. How many pump stations are done and how many are pending?
We basically need to do pretty much all our stations over. They're just outdated, they weren't taken care of. There's a lot of can stations, they flooded. We want to get everything above ground. It's a major safety issue. And these initial pump stations are part of the ACO, the Administrative Consent Order that you signed with the NJDEP. And we are on the clock as we speak to get those stations up and running and completed and replaced.
Well, my question is very simple. How many we restored and how many are outstanding? In last 1.5, 2 years, you're here past 2.5 years now.
Yes, and we put Band-Aids on all those stations because we didn't have the funding to completely change stations. And that's why, and from what
Not all.
From what I've been told, the township didn't want to put any money into it because they thought they had an agreement with Suez. So they spent as little as possible on the stations, and they were just pretty much when something broke down, they just replaced the motor or a pump or whatever the case may be. They didn't put any long-term money in to replace the stations on a whole.
Again, if my memory serves, 2.5 years, we have spent millions of dollars in restoring these sump
Just
pumps.
repairs. Just repairs.
Okay, again, this is a request to Council President, to the administration. Let's pull all the line items, all the ordinances that we have approved this council. I know for the fact that $5+ million we have approved to restore the sump pumps. I was told this was not a patchwork, this was a restore, if my memory serves correctly.
Nope,
Okay.
just repairs.
So we drained $5 million or maybe more than that. But again, that's the list I would like to know. In last 3 years, while Bob is on the, as a director of water utility company, how much money we spent on the sewer pumps?
It was all emergency line items.
Okay, again, we'll get the facts there. This $18 million is going to cover all the pump stations?
No,
No.
just the ones in the ACO.
Is there a reason that we are not putting all the pump stations?
If I
Dollar
may,
value. We're gonna go the ACOs first, and then we're gonna go down the list of what stations need to be taken care of. And we're gonna go to the I-Bank for funding, and that's where we are right now.
Bob, if, again, it goes back probably a few months ago. On the same dais, I did ask you, can you come up with 5-year plan
I have it.
before we approve any single dollar on the bonds?
It's been turned over.
Okay, I don't think any council member has that information. Yes, Council President.
I'm guessing I did not forward, I'll forward it. I have it. I thought I forwarded it to, did I not?
I did see something, yes.
5-year
I'll
plan.
yes, I'll re-forward it. I thought I had. If I didn't, I sincerely
Okay,
apologize.
I need a 5-year, and so we can see what every year, how much we are going to spend, because if we're going to go to cap bank, 100 times, that's not going to work. Number
excuse me, Councilman, if I may interrupt, sorry, one more time. Two points. I believe the improvements, the millions of dollars you were referring to in terms of pump station upgrade was the shared service that we did with the borough of Metuchen. This particular ordinance, these three are all isolated because these were damaged through Tropical Storm Ida. So these are going to be the subject of FEMA claims. They're actually already subject to FEMA claims and insurance claims. So we hope to recoup, our goal is to recoup some portion of that $18 million.
Okay, do we know how much we're going to recoup, or we don't know yet?
We don't know. Mr. Smith could tell you that we're dealing with what, our third or fourth set of FEMA investigators, and every time we get a new set, they start over at the beginning.
Understood. Ken, my frustration is very simple. We are shooting in the dark here. The reason I say that is $18 million we are going to put the bond, and that's my question is going to be on the finance. We get, say, $10 million back from FEMA. I'm just giving the example. Where that 10 million goes in the next year's budget, or in 10?
It would reduce the amount of debt that we would issue against that ordinance.
Okay, I know, when you get more money, you try to spend more rather than cutting down anything in your capital. But moving to the J. Township-wide water meter replacement. This was another hot line action item on the agenda when I was a part of the water utility committee that was formed. And we are supposed to get most of this money back from the old water company. And I think, few months ago, we did speak on that, how much money we got for the water meter replacement. And I was told, we don't know yet. Do we know how much money we got?
Are you talking about the money we held back from American Water?
No, I'm talking about a very specific line item for the water meter replacement.
Yes, you're correct. That was,
Right. We don't have anything for the meter replacement. This is a program we want to institute in the town, in our service area for Edison Water Utility. It's only for our service area. The township was holding back monies from American Water for their lack of, and things we found, and I don't know whatever happened with that. I have no idea. I was never informed. I was not in that loop.
No, Bob, again, this question is not to you, but the question was back to the administration, how much money we got, so that we know out of 8.8, probably we got 4 million or 2 million, or we didn't get anything.
I can't answer that.
I know you cannot, but that will be, again, I'll come back on those finance
We did
questions.
not get anything for water meters. We had agreed, the money we were paying New Jersey American Water was for the purchase of their accounts receivable, which was estimated to about $2.5 million. And we ended up paying, I believe the settlement was just around 2 million.
Okay, and was that credited towards this line item of water meter replacement?
Right, we didn't get
No,
any money
like
for that.
whatever we received, whatever the settlement was, where did we spend that money?
We didn't settle. We paid them less money than what was authorized.
Okay, I'll come back to that question. I'll hold on that, but let me go to the next one. The next one, K, gravity and pressure collection system assessment and rehab for water sewer. What's the scope?
We have to, as part of the ACO, we have to physically check all our laterals and force mains throughout the township. They have to be TV'd. We have to come up with a list of priorities, and then we have to address them. If we have to replace sewer mains, force mains, whatever the case may be, based on what we find in this study, that's what we have to do, and that's part of the ACO. We have no choice.
So this is $15 million just for study.
Yes.
Excuse me again, it's for phase 1 of 3 phases of this study. This does not cover all of the Edison water territory.
So this is $15 million for phase 1, just the study.
Of the sewer collection system.
Understood. So what the study that was done during the sewage time, that was trashed, basically.
That was basically copied off a Mont McDonald study, which we still have.
We don't have, we have it.
I have Mont McDonald study,
Okay.
yes. And that's what Suez based their
Correct.
information on.
So was that report wrong? Because we are restudying the same system again.
No, Mont McDonald did phase 1 and phase 2 of the collection system. They did flow monitoring. This was the third phase. It was put on hold until all the iBank information went in. And that'll be phase 3, is where we're actually physically cameraing all the mains. And that's a specialty. There's only a couple companies that do that kind of work. It's not like
Understood, understood. So phase 1 and phase 2, that was done by
Mont McDonald.
McDonald. Are you satisfied with that study?
Yeah, and that report was turned over to T&M Associates, and they're working on their study where they're going to start cameraing first. Yes.
Okay. Do we know how much they spend the money for 2 phases?
I could get that information for you, but just to clarify again, the Mont McDonald study was just an assessment of the age of the pipes and infrastructure. They did not camera any lines. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith. We're going to camera all the soil lines.
No, they did not. Flow monitoring. Mont McDonald did flow monitoring.
Understood, but how much it cost, again, if we can find out that. And will that study suffice, because it is up to your satisfaction, and if they spend a couple of $1 million?
We found that where we have extraneous flows into the system, in the collector system, where we have a lot of I&I, and we have to eliminate all I&I in the collection system.
No, understood. We know all along the problems of sewer system, but and that's where Suez betted on us. They were willing to give $100 million back to the town, and they were planning to upgrade the system. Again, I wholeheartedly oppose that, because we felt we, as a government entity, can do a better job. We can bring the efficiencies, and we can have our own trained staff, and we should be able to run our water utility efficiently, and we should be able to pass on that benefit to the taxpayers.
Some of these projects have been in the works for 2 years. I've been wanting to get this stuff done.
Understood. Again, I'm not debating that we don't need to invest, and that's where I said, if it means an $100 investment, so it be, because we really need it. We need to spend the money, no matter what it is. It's just that the plan, and Council President, if you can please forward that plan, and with that plan, in fact, we should be phasing out these bonds rather than just bundling them and saying, hey, this is what we are doing. Because my understanding at this point in time was we spend more than $4 or $5 million to upgrade to some extent our, not the sewer line, but to our pump stations. And I was happy with that. But what I see is all the patchwork. Again, and I'm lost. And if we are again with the dealing with the insurance company, we should have escalated that early on, or we should have bonded on, anticipating we'll get the money early on. But again, these are the questions specifically, Bob, for you, and I will have more questions toward the tail end, very generic questions about your executive decisions and all those, but I'll hold on those.
Council President,
And
you finished?
thank you. Any other questions? or-
I have with the finance, but let my counsel get all those.
I appreciate the understanding. Thank
Okay.
you. Councilwoman Schiffer?
How much money are we going to be receiving from the iBank?
I'm not exactly sure how much we've gone after. It's going to be,
We don't have a
all
close,
said and done, it's going to be over probably $100 million.
$100 million.
That's my estimate, yes.
Okay, and
That's for water and sewer.
And again, we're borrowing that money
Right.
from the iBank.
excuse me.
We're borrowing that money from the iBank
Okay,
at a
and
greatly reduced interest rate.
a greatly reduced, like
Well, short-term rates right now from the iBank are under 1%.
Okay.
Whereas if we sold in the current market, we'd be probably over 3%. Their long-term rates right now are in the 3% range. If we did it on our own, we'd be over 4%.
okay. So what this bonding? What's the interest on this?
We don't know yet until we go to permanent financing. We won't, because the market moves every day.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just
Yeah.
startled that
Yeah.
we're going with all these bonds and we don't know what it's going to cost us. I'm a senior.
Because
you know.
what we do is short-term financing until the project's completed for the first 3 years. It's cheaper that way and more efficient for the ratepayers.
So
So we'd be paying 1% while we're doing construction financing, and then maybe 3 or 4% when we're doing permanent financing. So we want to take advantage of the.
If the climate stays like it is right now, that doesn't go up and, because you know how the market is, sir. Because I know you know this. I know you know money.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? That's why I'm saying, that's why it makes me nervous not to know the exact amount that it is. And I've known we need these repairs, but my whole thing is, can I have some type of direction in which we're going? You give me something written out and where we're going, and call me crazy, but I'd like to know how many pump stations we have, because that determines the amount of money that we're going to be spending also. And sewer goes from one end of town to the other. So we're not just taking care of that south side section that you guys set up when I was in your water program. But now it's different, because when you're dealing with sewer, you're dealing with a whole town. So I just like to see the whole draw out of the whole town in what direction that we're going in. I know you're a good person for your spot, but I need to know stuff like a person in my area that doesn't have a degree in water or sewer. So I need something explained more to me, so I can explain it more to our residents of what we're getting into and how it's not going to make them all have to leave. Because, I met with seniors this morning and they're very, very nervous because they don't want to leave Edison. They've been here for a while, but they don't want it to be so high and so costly that they can't stay here. That's why I'm really, I'm really zeroing in on it. I'm more so the cost and the bonding and all that, it just adds. Thank you, sir.
I understand. It's
Excuse me, Councilwoman, again, I just want to point out that as part of the approval with the ACO in that package was the 9-year plan, because the ACO spans a 9-year period, and it outlined all the work that's got to be done over those 9 years,
I know.
including the number of pumping stations,
Yeah,
et
I know,
cetera.
because listen, I was here when we started this whole water venture. We got into that, and in good faith, our mayor and Tom Lanky, even though this was not totally his idea, but he went in with and let the people speak. So that's how we developed the whole water place for us. And I had asked him earlier times about meter readers and all that, and about the people keeping their jobs, because he knows I always ask about, people's employment and stuff, because it's tough times now. So that's why I'm just super concerned. I want it spelled out completely to people, because some people, Councilman A.J. Batil asks more complex questions. So I want to break it down, a little bit smaller than that, because, he's more into that, So I just wanted to be explicit and spelled out to the people, what is this and what is our range and what is our goal? And, when you tell people 9 years down the road, just like, I heard for some other project, we had 15 years down the road, you're telling people that, like, they see it so far in the future, they don't, you don't even know who's gonna be sitting in these seats down the road. So people, we might be sitting here now, but, 5 years down the road, if administration and everybody else changes, then, I don't want to be back at square one, is what I'm saying. Okay, sir?
Yeah.
Council President,
Sorry, she still has the floor.
I just was basically, I was talking about, this, our water and our pump stations, because I'm very, very, very disturbed about the pump stations at all, and that's moving, because that's, the big, that's the big time issues to me.
There are 21 pump stations. A lot of them are can stations, which means they're underground, 30, 40 feet underground. We'd like to get them above ground. It's a major safety concern. We did turn in a capital plan for the water and sewer. And also, as Ken said, we have the 9-year plan with the ACO. We were able to stretch it to 9 years. They wanted it all done 5 years, which that would have been impossible. This is a major, major undertaking that we're going to be going through here. Major undertaking, especially on the sewer collection system.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that 100%.
On the water
understand that.
side, we want to institute the water meters in our area. That'll give us, we won't need to have water meters. We'll just need to have technicians going out if there's a problem or a question with a meter. The information will come back right in directly in to the finance office. They'll be able to see it on their computers. Somebody calls up, they can tell them your meter's running fast. We can notify them. There's an issue, you have a leak. The customers will be able to log on and see what their actual usage is. They can have all their information right in front of them that they can look up. That's the new technology. That's the way we want to go. This way we won't have to go in anybody's houses anymore. We won't have to schedule appointments, and it'll make it much easier. On the smart hydrants, that's another thing that we want to institute. The hydrants basically communicate with each other. So if we have a break, even a small leak, we'll know it's between hydrant A and B or D and E or whatever the case may be. We need to cut down on water loss. We cut it down significantly, but we want to get it even lower, and that will be a major step on that. And then, as mentioned before, asbestos mains. We have to start eliminating asbestos mains. We have to get them out of service. We have some mains that we know need to be cleaned and relined. We're working with purchasing to try to set up a contract with that as well. We know what we need to do. I just need the funding to go ahead and do it. And once we get that, then we're going to start rolling.
Okay. Some people still are complaining about having black circles around their toilets, and there's black stuff that's in it. Some people told me. I don't think they're with your water company, though.
But
Nothing you can do about it. I told them.
no,
Yeah.
we can only deal with the people in Edison, in our service area, South Edison.
Okay. So our plan stretched out for our sewer, though, will be stretched out from here, from
We're already on the clock.
south to north, all the way back and forth, okay? So he said that we might be able to get a good deal from the iBank, and the bonds are gonna cost us, maybe this, maybe that, they'll cost us that. But we still need to, get busy.
Yes.
So, and let's just don't break the bank, sir, okay?
One thing I'm hopeful for is sometimes the iBank gives total forgiveness, and we're going to go down that route, and we're going to investigate that and try to make that happen. If they'll do that for some of our projects, that'll be outstanding.
Remember, depends on who's in office at that time.
That's out of my control.
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Tour.
thank you. Bob, how many miles of sewer do we have about?
Force mains over 300 miles, just under 400 miles
And
probably.
how many miles of water do we,
Water is not as long. I don't remember.
that's 11,000 customers or so?
Yeah, it's like just under 12,000 customers.
I guess two things here. First, through the council president, so sometime in the near future, for the council members who may not feel the direction is going transparent for them or need a little more understanding, could we have meetings on, on a Monday, 4 p.m. with Bob? Is that possible? We could do something different?
Yes, I have.
Only
I have no-
because,
I have no objections to that, and just so you know, and I apologize again, I thought I had sent out
problem.
the capital plan. I did just resend that out now.
I just
so-
think that a lot of questions today, that Councilman Patil has and Councilmember Joyce Shipp and other members of the council, I think could be discussed in your office. I think everybody in this council deserves a directional plan of what's going on. I'm extremely confident in what's going on here and being in your hands, Bob, as our director. I think, when we talk about which direction we're going, we're in year 3. 4 years ago, we weren't going in any direction at all. For 35 years, under 4 or 5 different administrations, they collected $33 million in revenue and did nothing at all. And from ground up, we started a water company. We're invested in our sewer. We're training men and women. I think this has been a career opportunity for Edison residents. We all know that because some of them already had left with training and went to better jobs, which is also something great. I worked hard with members on this council to fight against Suez, but I got to rewind to let the residents know where we were before, because before, under the Lenke administration, we were going to borrow $840 million for 40 years. We were taking on a loan with Suez, a French company we did not know, had zero relationship in. We were believing in a document that allowed us to have, some leverage and some discretion on the work that would be done. And as we went through that document, the concession, a document I believe it was called, we had zero discretion. There'd be a committee that would be informed, but we'd have zero discretion on where and when they would start. It's obvious, I think, we are being directed by the administrative consent order. For those who are listening, this is a state order of work that we must do now. In normal circumstances, different municipalities have 5 years to do that. We negotiated to 9 to stretch that out because it was always impossible. We'd be digging up, multiple roads, multiple main roads, and causing traffic and unnecessary hardship to our residents. So we stretched this to 9. I think we're in a fine place compared to where we were. We were driving 1 mile an hour. We're driving 60 miles an hour, getting things done compared to where we were. So I'm not blindsided here at all. I do believe this council deserves a separate meeting, with you, Bob, and giving us a directional understanding. We have a 20 by 15-foot wall there. You can put up a map, we could put up a projector and show where we're at. We know that the Mott McDonald report before and all the assessment they did and how they were selling the council members here an $840 million deal was borrowed money at an interest rate we would have no record of, and all that work would be put on to the taxpayer, put on to the user, whether that was the water of those 11,000 customers or the sewer of us, 33,000 customers. We'd have no control of rate increases at all. They were in charge of the billing. In fact, if we did the billing, they were going to charge us, which I think today we're in a really good position for a resident, whether it be a senior citizen or anybody else who has no knowledge, to be able to speak to someone in our customer service to know what's going on with their bill and why they may have a rate increase. And we found out through some rate increases where they never even read meters for 5 or 10 years. And now today, you can see on your bill, you have an actual meter reading and you have this estimate, which we had for a long time. Councilmember Brescher was involved in finding many bypasses and water going out to nowhere. I'd imagine today, if you looked at the uses of the water we had in the past compared to what we have today, we should be at a cost savings of buying water from American Water, who I believe had no care at all but to sell us water. They leased our lines and did zero, absolute zero improvements. And they were a reactive company who just fixed breaks based on what would be fixed, and we were still paying for those repairs. And I believe the administrative consent order goes by a critical, proactive approach, whether it's the asbestos first or the forest mains, it all has to be done. You know, I see us spending 300 million plus to get this in order in the next 10 years, and I hope we do a lot of it at once. A few council members elected to see more getting done. Again, we deserve that meeting with you to see where we're at. But I'm not blindsided. I think we're in a good place, with the exception of a meeting before this big meeting of spending the type of money that's on this agenda. But I anticipate seeing more of it. I anticipate seeing more bonds. I'm not surprised on what the interest rates will be. I think we're being negotiated with Ken and our business administrator to get less than 1% on some of the work. And I think we'll be at what the rate will be at that time, some 3%. I'm confident a lot of this will be forgiven. And I know we have a hope for that. There's no guarantee, but there's been experience in the past. Other people have been forgiven. And based on all the infrastructure money that's given out, I hope we're included in that. But if nothing was to happen and we were not to be forgiven, we're still in a better place than the French company was going to take over, we had no relationship with, who was going to borrow $840 million. And we weren't in control of what interest rate that would be. We just knew that they were going to be in control of it, and we were going to get $100 million for us, and they were going to do, I believe, $150 million improvements over 5 years, if I remember the plan right. And I have to go back to it, and I think Council President may remember or recall. So they were going to do a lot of critical work done, probably based on the same AOC order that was been pushed at us for a while, based on the new Water Quality Management Act, and therefore. So we're in a better place than we were for the residents that are listening because nothing was done for 30 years. So if we did nothing and we just picked areas throughout the town, it would still be more than we've ever done. But we're following a state order from the administration of the Department of State, part of Water Quality Management, and it's in the order of what has to be done. I hope to see more done aside from that, and if we have the manpower and we can finance it and this council approves it. But today, we're going to camera every line. We're going to camera the forest mains, and this is something that's never been done. I mean, if anybody's taken a look at the Talmadge Road break at that time when that happened, I never saw a hole that big in my life. I mean, it was a very large hole that felt like it kept going down. And I remember, I think Fletcher was the one who secured that area and built that out to make that repair. So we're in the big leagues being taken on a water and sewer like anybody else, no different than Middlesex Water or anybody else who's running a water or sewer company. So I expect this. This is part of what the residents deserve, to have these improvements, based on the work that has not been done, nothing being done for 30 years, except react, patch, and repair. So I think you're doing a great job, Bob. I'm confident in what you're doing. I share, the same sentiments of some of my council members to have a little more direction, to have a plan. And I hope the next time you come here, we already have a 4:00 meeting. We have time to discuss with you what the plan is. And if we don't have something on the agenda through the council president, we deserve a meeting in the next 10 days to say, hey, which way are we going here and what order of borrowing do you plan to do? And whether it's sitting down with just you and Ken and you and the business administrator, it's a deserved question because this is definitely a complicated situation we're all in through your administration. That's all I have. Thank you.
Just a couple things. Our
Thank you,
door is always
Councilman
open. Anybody wants to come by, we have a conference room, we have a screen in there, we can pull up all our maps, the plans, everything. We can walk you through. Anybody has any questions, we're there, every day. So you're always welcome to come by, ask questions. As far as Suez is no longer.
Council
I know,
President.
it doesn't even,
Suez is gone. They were taken over by Veolia Water, another French company. If they were going to give you $150 million, you would have paid more back in the long run, guaranteed, because That's what they're.
Well, they
supposed to
also
do.
would have been in charge of how they spend that 150 million. So when you have discretion to fix 20 feet, or 100 feet, they replace what they choose to replace based on the convenience of their interest. It may not be our interest. And that would be like going to a dealership, and none of us go to dealerships. We don't have to fix our car. We all know it costs more money, but we would have been in a very bad place. So, thank you.
And if we don't adhere to this ACO, the state, the DEP has taken over Newark and taken over Trenton facilities. And what they do is they come in, they'll just rehab everything that needs to be rehabbed, and they'll send the town the bill. There's no questions asked. They just take care of it. And Newark had no say, and neither did Trenton.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brusher.
Mr. Smith, I have a question for you. I guess I spoke to you maybe a month ago, and you told me that you were directed not to speak to council people, yet you stand here in front of me, and you tell me that your door is open. Can
Our
you
door's
please?
always open at the utility.
Well,
We
what
have nothing
happened?
to-
What happened the day that I seen you out at the hole, and you told me that you were instructed that council people aren't supposed to be talking to the directors? Did you say that to me?
I believe
Were you on the
something-
phone with the
something to
business
that-
administrator, and then you stand here in front of me, and you tell me your door is open? I mean, what I feel is BS, like a whole lie that you're portraying to the public.
No, you're
Now,
not getting BS
now that
from
just
me.
came from your statement,
That's- you're
because
not
you
getting-
said your door was open, but I met you a month ago, and you told me, the business administrator told you that I'm not supposed to speak to you.
That's my boss right there. I go by what she says.
Okay, but did she tell you that you weren't supposed to speak to me when we were standing at that hole? Yes or no?
Yes.
And now you're telling me your door is open, so which is it, sir?
My door is always open for my employees and for anybody on this council. If you have a question on what we're doing, I don't have a problem answering that as long as I have permission from my boss. That's fine.
Does your boss give you that permission now? Because she didn't give you that permission
Council
the other
President,
day.
Can't ask me,
if
you
I
have to
may,
ask them.
please.
I've allowed the conversation. I'm trying to be very fair, open, and allow people to speak. We have strayed way far from these bond ordinances, which is in regards to the ACO specifically. So my request, and I'm not going to say stop or not stop, but my request is to please keep it within the guidelines of what is in the resolution. Thank you.
Council President, I'll do that. But I just, when somebody stands up and says something, when the facts speak differently, the public needs to know that, irregardless of where we are in your agenda. So if somebody comes up and says something and it's in contradiction to the actual facts, then that needs to be addressed. And that's what I did. Okay, now we'll get back to my questions, because
You're
as far
wrong,
as
though.
I'm concerned, you tell me that your door is open, but your
We've
door has
talked
been
to
closed.
many people
Excuse me,
on the
Council President. May I clarify that statement,
Point
please?
of order, Council President. I had the floor, please.
Let her just,
No.
Rich, it's just a,
No,
she's gonna say.
As a
oh,
matter
he's
of
allowed to
chain
talk to you. Let's just finish it, man.
no.
Everyone. Councilman Brescher, please complete your statement. Councilman Brescher has the floor. Now, if I have to be very strict in regards to Robert's Rules of Orders, in regards to recognizing everyone, giving any type of guidelines, I will. I try to give the flexibility so that we can have open dialogue, but if that is going to be abused in a manner that is not moving conversations forward, then we will have to reevaluate. Councilman Brescher, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Back to the questions at hand. I'm very happy to say that the state has ordered Edison to repair this, because my feelings
So
have
am I.
been that administrations, current and past, have neglected this. Okay, so I'm very happy that we got to this point. But I do have some concerns. Harding Avenue. What did we do to the Harding Avenue pump station? Because it was my understanding that that pump station was like shot, and we redid it. Not that you redid the whole facility, but like you gave it a facelift, so therefore it's a,
That was damaged during Ida, and we've done temporary repairs at that station to get it back up online. Nothing permanently is done on any of the stations. They've all just been upgrades that things have broken down. Like I said, that one was damaged during Ida. We have a claim in to FEMA for that. Unfortunately, every time we feel like we're making ground, there's a new FEMA inspector that takes over, and we're starting from just ground zero again, over and over again with them. But that, we will get funding for that station, and then we will look at that to do long-term mitigation on that station. Yes.
Okay. The water meters, right? That's going to cost us, was that the $8 million one? Yes, right, 8.8 or something, right?
That's an engineer's estimate.
Okay. That's to pay the engineer, or is that to pay to do the $8 million to put the smart meters in?
A private company, we are going to try to purchase the meters because we can get them at the best value. Is a company's going to do the installs. I believe the engineering company is going to have some kind of charge in there. T&M, I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be. That's just a rough estimate. I thought it was going to come in more in the 6 to 7 million range. But yeah, that's to replace all the meters within our area.
Now, let me ask you a question. How many people do you have that read meters currently?
3.
So you have 3 bodies that are reading meters. Their package, Sonia, can we get a list of what their package is, let's say, worth? And when I say their package, I mean total package of their salary, their benefits, their retirement. Because if each individual is, 150,000, let's say, and that's 450,000, I'd just like to know how long it's going to take for us to break even, right? Because you're not going to need these meter readers anymore.
We're going to put them into our staff out in the field, add to the staff. We run pretty thin.
Well, I'm not doubting that you're running thin. What I'm saying, though, is that if you put the meter readers in, you don't need the meter reader people.
We'll need a couple probably technicians for issues. Homeowners have an issue or whatever the case may be, they're not getting a reading, we'll have to go out and check, make sure their radio's working, it's wired correctly.
Okay, so right, so out of 3 people, you're going to need 1 person, let's say, right? So we
Possibly.
have 2 people, and if their where I'm going is if their package is worth 150,000 each, that's $300,000. We divide 300,000 into 8.8 million, right? And that'll give us what that return will be, kind of like when you buy solar panels for your house. Right? So we'll find out whether it's cost effective or it's not. And these meters, what is their life expectancy? Because they obviously don't have a life expectancy of, and that's with software updates and everything else. Like, where I'm going with it is it cheaper for us just to pay the employees to do the meter reading than for us to invest $8 million now and maybe we don't even get to recoup that 8 million before we have to redo them?
Councilman, if I may, part of the benefit to the smart metering system, yes, is the avoided labor cost. More importantly, it's recapping and recuperating the lost revenue that we're missing from our old ineffective meters, and also catching places that the sewer utility people or water utility people have done where people are bypassing their water meter. So that's going to should result in increased revenue. So it's not only cost avoidance, it's
And how
also
much do we have?
to be generating.
Where I'm going with this, right, is it's like when we said we should get this forgiven. Will it be forgiven? I don't know. The public was expecting, this council to come in with a budget of like 0, like the Board of Ed and everything else. Did it happen? No. So I can't go on the premise that it might be. I have to go on the premise that we're going to pay for this, right? Our residents are going to pay for this. That's really where we are. So I'm looking for this recouping. So unless you and Bob can get together, right, and you can tell me that we will recoup $2.7 million over the next 10 years by catching these things, right? The words that come out of your mouth are kind of irrelevant because I need to know what that cost is, not a thought. You're giving me an $8 million bill. I need to know what that costs. So maybe you guys can get that for Wednesday for us? Give us the total cost for the employees, right? Then you had those incidental things that you put in there. I'm sure you can put dollar amounts on that, and I don't think that's unreasonable to ask. I'm kind of evaluating this like almost like a solar system type thing, because you don't necessarily need the smart meter thing, right? This is more of a convenience. So if we could just get that, that would be ideal.
Another advantage of that as well is you, if you wanted to, you could bill monthly, because that information goes right into the database and it's right there. You don't have to wait until we do series of meter reads and split up each area quarterly. That information will be there instantaneously.
I'll tell you this, residents have been paying their water bill quarterly for longer than I've been on the planet. And as anybody can see, I'm not a young man. So I don't think we need to change that and bill them once a month.
I'm just saying it's something you can do if you wanted to.
But
and it will help our water loss as well.
I'd like to just see how the value comes out, because I don't see where that value or that savings is coming. The last question I have is just with the scoping out the lines. This is the $15 million that's to scope out our lines,
On the collection system,
right, on the sewer. Is this 15 million to give us a full detailed report for every inch of pipe in the township, or is this like engineering related?
both. T&M will oversee it. They will come up with the final report. But we need, as part of that ACO, we need to inspect all of the force mains and the collection system.
Okay.
And we have to address wherever there's an issue. We have when it comes to our attention, we have X amount of days to address that issue as part of the ACO.
Now
15 million, that's their estimate.
Okay, and where my question comes is, again, I think we had a conversation a year or two ago about scoping out these lines. And it was at a meeting, in fact, right? And we said we were going to get 2 people and have them start scoping out the line. And I asked you how long that would take, and at first you said it was a year. And then you said, wait a minute, it's going to take longer than a year. So I do understand that. But here again, it comes the question of, so my impression was it might take 2 years or 3 years for 2 people to scope out the lines. So even if I'm wrong, right, and you double that, so if I take 2 people's salary of $300,000, just an arbitrary salary, times 2 years, I got $500,000. This is $15 million. So where I'm going is, let's say that I am totally wrong by 200%, right? So you give me the 200% more, it's still probably 10 million less. So why do we have an estimate of 15 million when we were originally going to do this work ourselves, but now we're going to go out to outside?
We are incapable of TVing the collection system force mains. It's specialty companies that do that. I believe there's only 2 in this entire area to do that.
2 companies, right? But there are people, and they get trained for this, right? And you do this thing. The business administrator would hire people that are qualified to do this, and they would be doing that work. And if that company is paying these people $100,000 a year, if we had a thing in there for $120,000, like where I'm going with this, at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, like I can go do this, but I would like to see their timesheets on a daily basis for how long it takes to do this, okay? And I'd like to say that I can get that because we're like a prevailing wage state, So they have to do those timesheets anyway. So if we're going to pay 15 million, let's say, don't get me wrong, if the timesheets add up to 12 million, right, I'm okay. But if the timesheets add up to like $3 million worth of work, I don't know how I feel about moving forward in this direction with the administration recommending to do 15 million is where I'm going.
I understand, but we wouldn't find that out until after the fact, until they actually start doing the work.
Well, like we talked originally, right? We talked about us scoping out the lines.
We do some of the TVing on laterals, yes, we do, and some of our mains that are not force mains.
The force mains are what you can't do.
Oh, yeah, we cannot
Now,
do those.
let me just ask you a question about your force mains, because maybe I'm not understanding. But, so I have a pipe, and a force main is something where you're going from a lower level, and you're pumping the stuff like uphill, so it's under pressure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, how do you determine, or how do they determine that there's a leak? And let me tell you where I go with this. If you do your regular lateral lines and you put a camera in and it's raining, right, you're going to see infiltration coming into your sewer line, and that tells you there's a problem. So I do understand technically how you can figure that out. But the force mains,
They're going to stick a camera in there.
oh, okay, but so if I stick a camera, right, through my water pipe in my house, right, my feed line, the water's flowing through there, how do you determine that there's a hole?
They can
I mean,
see,
on the outside, you can see the hole, right? But on the inside, what I'm
they
saying.
can see that. We just had that, the force main that runs from Metuchen all the way, it's the Metuchen Edison transmission main. That runs all the way down to Johnson Park. And I forget the address, over here in the neighborhood. The top of the pipe blew out, caused a massive sinkhole in the people's backyard, almost lost their shed in it. We cameraed that line, and we found additional issues with that line, and we relined a large section of that pipe, but it's a cement lined pipe, and it was down to the rebar. It was down to the rebar, and we could see it clear as day when we TV'd that line. Clear as day. That's why we had to reline a large section of that pipe. And now we're going to have to look at that entire pipe from the station out back behind the police station all the way out. And
So-
if we
so
find
this
the same
50
situation, we're going to have to repair it.
So this 15 million, though, is for the entire town, including laterals.
Yes, it's for, yes, they're going to do the entire town, do the inspections, camera inspections, come up with a report. I'm sure they'll turn it over to T&M. T&M will come up with their report. And once we identify the worst areas, we have to then go attack them as part of the ACO. And it's broken down. We're not going to do the whole system at one time. They broke it down into quarters. So every year we'll do like 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. But what we find in that first year, we have to address immediately. We'll do the second year of the investigation. Then whatever we find, we have to address immediately. They're not giving us any leeway. Once we identify an issue, we have to address it.
Well, thank God for the state, and somebody's making us do it. But we could actually do the lateral lines.
Some of them, yeah. We do rounds, and we go out and camera them, and we have the video of them, and we get a lot of complaints. People, their toilet doesn't flush, and we go out, we flush the main, we TV the main, and make sure there's no issues with that, and we do that on a routine basis.
Right. I mean, I'm like, and I've spoken to you for years now about us doing the work and not subcontracting all this out. So over here, the 15 million is for the entire system. And we could do that work, but we're just, the administration or yourself, somebody besides this body has decided that they just want to subcontract out all the work. That'd be correct.
A majority of it is due to the force mains and lines that we cannot do.
Excuse me,
And we have one guy who runs a camera truck. We only have one person. We would need an army of people to get that all done. We have one truck and one guy that operates the camera.
Well,
You're talking 400 miles.
yeah.
It'll take forever.
How long is it? How much can a guy do in a day?
You could do few thousand feet.
A guy,
If he doesn't run into any issues,
okay.
obstructions or whatever the case may be.
Council President, Mr. Roberts has been trying to get your attention.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Just a couple points, Mr. Smith. Would you clarify, this 15 million, this is for Phase 1, isn't that correct?
This is actually phase 3.
Phase 3,
The
okay.
first phase that T&M is going to do.
Okay,
Mott McDonald is phase 1 and phase 2.
okay,
T&M is going to do phase 3.
Phase 3,
It was
okay,
their
just to
first
clarify.
foray into this.
And then the other thing is, under the terms of the ACO, do we have a certain time period to complete the sewer assessment?
4 years.
4 years, okay.
Okay, so the one guy we have, he does a couple thousand feet a day, and we have 300 miles of sewer, right? Okay, that little math I can do later. Okay, that would be.
We do the best we can do with what we have.
You know what? like here's my issue. I sit up here. I don't direct you what to do, right? That comes from the administration yourself. You guys collaborate. My only job is to approve funding. So, like when our police department asks for funding and we approve it, right? What I don't want to hear from the police department is we can't make the arrests because we don't have the patrol cars. You know what I mean? It's you come to me, you ask me for what you need, I give it to you, and I don't think I've ever said no to water and sewer. So, you know, when you make the statement like I can do what I can do, it's a little depressing for me because I sit up here going, tell me what you need and we'll give you that. And if it's not you and it's the administration that doesn't want to do it, it doesn't matter whether it's you, the BA, the mayor, right? It doesn't matter. You all fall under one umbrella, and your job is to get this done and to come to this body.
Yes.
So whatever money you have, we've given you everything you need to get it done. We just expect it done. And I'm glad that, like I said, the state is forcing us to do it, right? I'm glad that we had a plan. I did see the plan that Council President, you sent it over, and I think I complained to you the one day that we were doing very little this year, right? And we're doing more the following years, because I would have liked to have seen more on the upfront. So it's a good thing that we're moving forward. I do like that. I'm just concerned about the cost and the efficiencies, you know, and that goes with the smart meter, and it goes with this scoping out of the lines, really. I just don't feel, I feel there's a way to do that more efficiently. I don't know that we get our bang for the buck per se, you know, with the smart meter type thing. Telling me that I can go to the township and look at my water usage for the day.
You can look at it on your computer at home. You don't have to go to the township.
Yes, that's where I'm going. Nobody is concerned about looking at their water bill at home. I had a resident complain that their water bill and their sewer bill like don't match and isn't paid or whatever, and the poor person still can't get it fixed. You know what I mean? And what's happening with that? I don't know. I try to look at it myself, but I think you report the water to the sewer company, and then I think they're behind.
You're behind.
Right, so when I look at my sewer bill and my water bill, they actually don't match.
Never match. You have to go back to your water bill the previous year.
That's, yes. So I had to say I myself couldn't even help that poor resident. I actually felt bad about that. Thank you very much for your time.
Don't be depressed. We're on the right track here. We're finally getting going.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Anything else in regards to water?
I'm done, Council
Thank
President.
you. Any,
I have some financial question, a couple of them, not for Bob, but for, unless you want to continue.
just because he's been standing up there for
Yes.
almost an hour, so I want to make sure we address everything. Councilman Patel, please.
So I personally think the smart meter is a great idea. And what I wanted to ask, let's say you have 3 people, I would assume that if we have smart metering, you would utilize that labor elsewhere. You wouldn't let them go.
Right, yes.
Okay.
You're not
So I
letting them
think
go.
it would make the department more efficient.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, I know residents don't have, usually not have a major water bill, so they might not care to pay monthly, but I'm not saying all, but some, most, I hope. And, but I know businesses definitely care about their water bill, and if we can get it monthly, I think they would appreciate it, because businesses can rack up about $10,000, $20,000 bills, and I don't think they want to hold that money for 3 months to pay us. And in terms of those changes, I don't think a lot of this is really worth questioning, because if it's ACO mandated, there's not much we can do one way or the other, and I don't want the state to take over. So I will leave that, but I do have a question on the 5-year plan. I see that portion of the work already completed and cannot be funded by the iBank, and I see the pump stations, and they're usually in the range of 4 million and 1.35 million. And then I look at the contract that we have with iBank, and there's 3 pump stations there, and they're around 2.5 million and 6.7 million. So I'm not sure why there's a massive difference when iBank is paying for it and when we're paying for it.
When you go through iBank, you have to have all engineered documents. We couldn't just submit it on our own. It's got to come from an engineer. It's got to be planned. It's a whole big process you have to go through with the iBank. So we couldn't just come up with a plan and say, we're going to go ahead and do this. It's all got to be engineered. It's got to be sent to them. They have to approve it. They have any questions, they go back to the engineering company.
Okay, all right, that's fair. And what is the life, like, I know some of these pump stations are around from 1960s. Can we expect that kind of lifeline going forward for our pumps, that we are getting new ones?
We should get at least 20, 25 years out of the new ones, sure. We have the one pump station, it's 1947.
Wow, okay.
And that's on the list. RVE is designing a new pump station for that site, and that is one of them that is on the ACO.
Okay. And thank you, that's all I have for myself.
Thank you. Councilman Patil?
I have one question for Bob, and then rest is for finance. Unless you want to continue, you ask the question, and then I will ask him the last
Would
question.
you mind asking the question for the water, what I would like to
Yes,
do
only-
after the water discussion? Just because I know that it's a big agenda. And we do have Labor Council here in
Yes.
regards to the closed session. After the water discussion, I would like to go to the closed session and then reopen it up and then kind of start afresh, if that's
Yep.
okay.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Yes, sorry to,
Thank you, Council President. This ACO repairs, we must do it. There's no choice, right? It's a state mandated. However, we are not only the town in the state of New Jersey. We are not only the town in the state of New Jersey.
There's other towns that have been hit with this. Like you
Yes.
said, Newark had one, Trenton had one.
Understood.
They didn't do anything. The
Right.
DEP took them over. and
My
did
only the question is, our sewer pipes and water lines as old as Piscataway and South Plainfield and Metuchen and our favorite town that we compare, Woodbridge. Do we know how they are handling the situation?
I can tell you none of them are under administrative consent order. It's in the past, Edison had only so many discharges. Nothing was ever done. They had given them, I guess, said they were going to fix this, they were going to fix that. I think a lot was banked on the Suez deal, and they didn't want to do a whole lot because they thought Suez would step in and do everything, so it was put on hold. The stations and the system has been neglected for a long, long time.
To compare, I don't want to get into more discussion. I just want to make it fair, maybe if Woodbridge is doing something different than what we are doing, maybe we have to look at that town, or maybe Piscataway, and say how differently they are doing, so we can continue to follow the model that is working, and we are not getting into situations spending millions and millions of dollars at, say, 10 years, 15 years, because I just heard if our pump station life is 25 years, it's not that far. 25 years will come and like this. By the time you repair 5 years down, 9 years plan, you're halfway in that life. I will live with that, but through Council President, I will ask administration to, if we can compare the other towns and see how they are doing.
Councilman Patil, just to clarify, the legal life for bonding for the pump station repairs is 40 years.
Okay. So life of the pump station is 25 years, but bonding is for 40 years. But we'll get into finance discussion afterwards. That's going to be...
That depends on, like I said, we have that station from 1947.
Understood.
When they designed that station, you didn't have all this buildup in the town.
Old is gold. Old is gold. Back then, the manufacturing was very different.
Right, but they designed it for maybe 1 million gallons of flow, and we're up at 6 or 7 million gallons,
Yes.
and we can't keep up with it. The mains going out of the station are not adequate enough to carry the flow. Things change, and it's a national issue, water and sewer infrastructure in the country, because it's underground. Nobody pays attention to it until there's an issue.
Overdevelopment.
That's another big issue.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Just a
Yes, Councilman Brescher.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, when you talked about that, all the building, the state will give you like a moratorium where you can't build because of like your sewer mains. So if they were really like an issue, we would have stopped building until we got our infrastructure in place. But because I looked into that. So I just wanted to say that, yes, even though we are, our overbuilding is probably how we ended up here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Wanted to try to get as much information because there is $51.3 million worth of bond ordinance for water and sewer. So I want to make sure that we have as much of a discussion to be able to address as many questions. I just wanted to point out, just for people's reference, some of the items within the ACO that these are going to be addressing. So in regards to H, in regards to the water main system improvements, we are required within 2 years from the effective date of the ACO, which was brought before this council in December of last year, that Edison shall complete the inspection and assessment of the physical integrity of the force mains and manholes. So that's within 2 years that we are required to do this. Upon the completion of the inspection and assessment program, we are to begin to rehabilitate those force mains and manholes identified by that assessment. And Edison shall complete rehabilitation of 25% of such components within the first year and each of the following years. The $18 million bond ordinance in regards to the pump station rehabilitations. Those are 3 stations: West Side Pump Station, Wood Avenue, and Evergreen Pumping Station. West Side, we have to have rehabilitated within 36 months from the date of the ACO. Wood Avenue has to be done within 48 months, and Evergreen needs to be done within 60 months. This also includes for any bypass piping as required. In regards to the $15 million gravity and pressure collection system, again, within 1 year of the effective date of the ACO, Edison is to complete the inspection and assessment of the physical integrity of 20% of the gravity mains and manholes, and then doing the same 20% each subsequent year. Those are to be repaired in conjunction in the following subsequent years. And the water replacement project, the 8.85 ordinance, I actually agree with Councilman Patel in regards to the smart meters. It can help with not only the workload within the department, but as we advance our technology within the township, these types of equipment are going to be able to interact with other entities, other departments, other types of programs. So we may be able to cross-reference that information that's gathered for the benefit of other uses. That's all I'd like to say in regards to the water and sewer bonds. At this time, I'd like to request from my colleagues if we can go into the closed session to discuss the legal matter there, just because Mr. Smith has been up for an hour, and I know that, again, it's quite a lengthy agenda. Once we get back from the closed session, we'll go back to the agenda. We'll absolutely revisit Department of Finance, do the agenda first, and then do our normal points of light, discussion items, comments from the public. So at this time, can I get a motion to go into?
Motion to enter closed session, yes.
Motion to go in the closed session?
Second.
Do I need to do a roll call or all?
All in favor, second? Oh, you guys, you're gonna read the
Oh,
statement of
sorry.
compliance, yeah.
Whereas Article 6 of the Open Public Meeting Act provides that the public may hold a closed session, whereas the Township Council will, during the meeting, enter into discussion for the following matter, settlement agreement. Whereas the matters to be discussed in closed session are to remain in the strictest confidence of all council members in the furtherance of their fiduciary duties to the Township of Edison. Therefore, be resolved, matters discussed at this meeting will be released to the public where reason for discussing and acting upon them in closed session no longer exist.
So there was a motion by Councilman Patil, second by Councilman Patel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is now adjourned for closed session. Thank you, everyone. At this time, can I get a motion to reconvene?
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Councilman Patil, second by Councilman Coyle. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is now reconvened. I know the initial conversation was very spirited. We're going to reset as if it were a regular meeting and start from the top. So at this time, I'd like to open up for oral petitions and remarks, starting from the list, which I believe it was Mr. Bassoff, if I recall correctly. Oh, sorry.
Joel Bassoff, 17 Beach Lane. I have a question about the Glendale Avenue property. As far as we know, that there's no litigation pending that involves the property, so we could use an update as to when the township's going to move forward in purchasing the property as was originally announced, or an update as to what the next step is for that property. On Public Advocate, the Council's Public Advocate Committee did come up with a draft of an ordinance. It was sent to the attorneys for review. It's sort of sitting in limbo there. We've asked for clarification of some of the comments, but the intention is that we do have an ordinance which could be introduced by the council and passed, because people really need help there. There are several development applications that are pending before the zoning board and the planning board. And if people can't benefit from a public advocate, they're going to either have to figure out how to reach into their own pockets to pay for their own land use attorney and professionals, or the developers are just going to put these projects through. And as we know, even if the planning board or the zoning board rejects the development application, if there are no expert witnesses on the other side, if there has been no cross-examination of the developer's witnesses, an appellate court will just send it right back, and the master plan and the zoning plan will just be flouted by developers. So it's in the township's interest to protect its own master plan and its own zone plan. So we'd like to see some progress on this. Some questions on the agenda items, on the resolution authorizing overpayment, a refund of a tax overpayment caused by a successful tax court appeal. That's $71,000. Can we get some background on how big a tax reduction there was, what sort of a property was, just what the issue was there, and if maybe that's a matter that should have been settled for less, or did we end up saving money by the matter going to the tax court? I notice under the Department of Finance items, Resolution F, requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation. It looks like that's because the township got grants from the state after the budget was passed. Now, when the budget presentation was made, the explanation for the budget being so late, not being presented until the year was halfway done, the explanation from the mayor was that, well, since the state budget hadn't been concluded and since we didn't know what revenue items the township would be getting from the state, it made sense to delay the township's budget. But we see here that as revenue comes in from the state, notwithstanding the adoption of a budget, we're still able to make the changes. So my suggestion would be, going forward, adopt the budget much earlier in the year. And if the township gets money from the state, that's all well and good. The budget obviously can be amended to take that into account. On the authorization of a legal settlement, I'd ask the council, to the extent that it can explain the background, what now that it seems like that's been concluded, if we could be informed what that is. If not, I understand. And then from...
Excuse me, Council President, could he speak a little louder? 'Cause
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Right. Then there's the item from the chief of police, resolution accepting a bid and awarding a contract to Crossing Guard Services LLC. It's $900,000. So the question there is, how many person hours does that represent, and how does that cost compare to what the township was paying for Crossing Guard Services previously before this was outsourced? Thank you.
Thank you. Try to go through all of them first. Any update in regards to Glendale or Silver Lake that you can provide?
No, but we can have a report for you very shortly. If Wednesday, if not Wednesday, I'll make sure shortly thereafter.
Thank you. Are there any other I don't want to waste your time by chance.
No, if we could get an update on that, and then
The tax appeal, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the address,
No,
but it's-
I would caution against discussion of any litigated matter. I think whether it be a decision of the tax court or it be a pending litigated matter, in both instances, I would highly recommend that we don't engage in discussions on those matters, because it could divulge trial strategy, and in the case of the matter that has concluded, and with the matter that has not concluded, that is still a pending litigated matter. So in both instances, I would recommend, as your counsel, to refrain from comment on both of those.
I appreciate the explanation. I hope you understand. The legal settlement we just spoke about, and the crossing guards, you want to know essentially a cost analysis compared to previous.
right.
I would anticipate this being a discussion item when it comes up, so if it's okay I'll make sure to bring it up during the discussion.
That's fine. Thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you. We are off the list. Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Patil, second by Councilman Patel. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oral petitions remarks is closed. 5, review of minutes. A, work session meeting, May 22nd. B, work session meeting, June 12th. And C, regular meeting, May 24th. Any questions or comments?
Council President, just one request here. All these meeting minutes, if we can reference the YouTube link or the Edison channel TV link in the meeting minutes, that would be helpful. So if someone wants to, may not be able to understand what it means, but they can watch that council meeting and try to understand what was said. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I like that suggestion. 6, administrative agenda from Mayor Sam Joshi. A, appointment of Kathleen Carlucci to the Cultural Arts Committee. Any questions or comments?
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Patil.
I'm very happy to see Kathleen's appointment. She's been serving the Edison Township for a long, long time, and it's a good addition to this committee, and happy to see her appointment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council
Councilwoman
President.
Schiff Freeman.
Yes, I like that she's on board here because when we did I want to say, congratulations to all the women because now you've been voting for 103 years. It was ratified on the 18th, and Kathleen Carlucci, when we had it in the park in 2020, she was instrumental in helping us do our first celebration, the 100-year celebration. She did a fabulous job along with me with our 100-year celebration at Ulysses Park, because we had to be outside in 2020, but I think she's a great access to whatever committee that she would be on.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. 7, reports from all council committees. I'll start to my right, Councilman Brusher.
I don't actually have a report, but I'm going to report on the public advocate. We didn't have a meeting, but the attorney did email me and did say that he would do a conference call with us. But being it's summer and some people are sick, some people have been on vacation. Me, yes, we haven't moved that forward since the last meeting, but we will be moving that forward in the future. That would be it, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Coyle.
Council President, we had a brief public safety meeting on Zoom with the chief. We went over some methods that were going to be enforced to make sure there are home invasion protection and different burglaries in different parts of the town, patrol for speeding in different areas, different stop signs and crosswalks and throughout the town. I think the meeting went well. We had some great questions through our committee that were answered, and we will be having another meeting sometime in September, face-to-face. As far as the Public Works Committee, we're going to be looking at studying our parks to look to see if there are any problems in our parks besides the upgrades that are being done now, the actual steady maintenance of our parks. Then, of course, looking into preparing for snow and making sure that the trucks that are ordered or having difficulty being ordered to come in. Again, purchasing has always been a difficult process, and DPW definitely needs more equipment. So, thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Patel.
On the bike paths, I met with engineering and administration. We developed a map that essentially travels through the power lines that we will be meeting with PSE&G soon. Date to be determined, most probably early September, where we'll be discussing with PSE&G if they can give us the right of ways to build those bike paths under the power lines. In terms of the website, I believe the BA told me that we are reaching out to the RFP today. I am not sure how the website ad hoc committee will be involved because it seems like this will be a more technical matter, but I will see how it moves forward. Billboards, I am still working on updating the sign ordinance that is based on Austin, Texas. In terms of, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Patel.
Thank you, Council President. We had the education liaison meeting. Many issues were discussed, and there were updates from the EPD on the traffic, especially Gloria Avenue. But I see the Facebook post, the road is done, everything is checked before the school starts. So again, happy to see that progress. We also discussed about the crossing guards. I can see the line item on the agenda, so that's a good thing. So we are moving forward with that. The other things, they were discussed, but nothing concrete. The decisions were made, like Stilton Community Center, and any understanding with the Board of Education in terms of sharing the land or trying to figure it out how we can deal with them, especially the property on the Talmesh, when that can be closed, if that can be handed over to the Board of Ed. And I'm hoping we'll continue to have those discussions in the subsequent meetings. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Schiff Freeman.
Okay, meeting with the Housing Authority, they're moving forward with their basketball court, and they're gonna have a tennis court also, because everybody doesn't want to play basketball. And also with the master plan, I met with them at the first aid squad and also here in the building, and the Clara Barton section, people from the Clara Barton section seem to be displeased at which way the master plan is going, and we assured them, we were telling them that it's not written in stone yet, all right, so, but, they're disappointed that when different things happen to their community, that they're not privy to what's happening. It's like everybody tells them what's good for them instead of them being involved in it. And I believe wholeheartedly, if you bring people in, you sit them around the table, they actually buy into what you want to do, but people have this thing about wanting to be included and stuff. So that's their whole temperament about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And for myself, the Historic Preservation Commission will be meeting this upcoming Friday. I have corresponded with the State Department rep in regards to the deer population. We are still trying to find a date that's suitable for us to meet. And the Smart City Advisory Committee, I would expect a presentation to be at one of the September meetings. Thank you.
Council President.
Yes,
I just want to
Councilman
correct
Foil.
our public safety meeting. We're not having home invasions in town. What we're having is break-ins. We're having break-ins that are just going for the key rack and taking the car keys and stealing cars. So I just want to correct that. Most recent, it's not a home invasion. People aren't going in, stealing anything else. They're going right for the key rack and going for the car. So I just wanted, that's what I'm learning. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you for the clarification. Points of light. Any council members with points of light?
We're having a jazz concert. We're leading off on September 28th, and Woodbridge is ending up on October 1st. And it would be here at Lake Papiani we're on September 28th to start off. And Mayor Mack, as they call him, donated $5,000 from his foundation to make sure that the advertisement and the stuff would move freely. If you look on different papers, Mayor Mack is putting the information out through his foundation, moving it further along. And what else is it? I think we have that other. And also on September 16th at the Pines Manor, there will be a jazz brunch. If anybody wants to know more information about that, also, they can ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other points of light?
Council President.
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
I just wanted to thank a retiree, Bruce Tuttle, who worked in the Parks Department, our tree division. He was an asset to Edison Township. I think through his own decision, he decided to retire. I believe he was with us 25-plus years. Through emergencies and windstorms and different situations, whether it was for public safety or for the residents of Edison, he was always out there in different weather conditions. He and his crew, and in fact, Szilagyi was one who retired with him a year before. But Bruce was a great worker, and he was someone you can communicate with, and he did a lot for this town. I mean, if you think about when the road closes because of a storm, Bruce was out there cutting that tree to make sure that roadway was open, to make sure an ambulance can get through, to make sure a police car can get through. Difficult people to replace. And so good luck, Bruce, in your retirement. Also to note for every tree, for the guilty pleasure of cutting trees, he's joined a tree committee and replacing trees around the town. Yeah, I put him on the beautification committee. I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you, Councilor. And one last thing, former Councilman Billy Krusrak has passed away. Those who don't know that, Billy was a councilman here on the dais for about 12-plus years. Served with Charlie Tamaro, with Senator Pete Barnes, who was a council member then a judge, and many others here on the dais. He was also an entrepreneur and had a deli next to the Plainfield Country Club. If those who remember, I'm sorry, the Metuchen Country Club, and he was there for decades. Hardworking guy. He left the council through his own decisions to move on and for other opportunities. And he was noted for this 9/11 memorial we have here today. He lobbied for that, started a committee after 9/11, and today what you see there is the design from Edison High School students, and it was donated by a lot of people who got involved, and the landscaping was done by Barton Nursery. Thank you, Council President.
Council President, I forgot one other thing.
Yes, Councilwoman Shafreeman.
Yes. I'm glad I stopped by Dr. Henry Larry's house yesterday. He turned 100 years old, and I do remember the first year when I was here with Mayor Lanky, I said, we need to do something for our 100-year-old people in this town. We need to all recognize him. So I was glad to know that the police department came by yesterday and they delivered a proclamation to him. And also, I see that it's still going on, that we're still recognizing it. And I'm going to tell you something. For that man to be 100 years old, to be as lucid and together, and I asked him what was his secret, and he said, family first. Always think of your family first, no matter what other business it is. He said, think of your family, and that's how you get all those years. So remember, put your work aside, look out for your family, all right?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Patel?
I just want to say on August 1st, I went to the National Night Out with my daughter, And she had a wonderful time riding the mini train and seeing the mobile library. And she also got to see the K9 presentation and got to hang out with the council president's daughter. So she had a lot of fun, and I personally had a lot of fun out there. And there was one more thing. Oh, yes, the bike paths. I think I want to thank the administration for starting to stripe the bike paths. There were some mishaps, but I'm glad they were done earlier in the project, and hopefully moving forward, we can get it done quickly and more efficiently and get the whole town built out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel.
Just
Yes,
actually,
Councilman
Councilman Patel did cover the National Night Out. I think this was the largest turnout that night. I was very happy that, after a long time, especially for the National Night Out, and again, EPD did an amazing job. We had everyone, I think every single department of Edison Township was present there. Again, thank you. Thank you for continuing this legacy and making this bigger and better. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Any other points of light? For myself, just a couple of upcoming events. This Saturday, August 26th, is the Edison House Music Festival, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Lake Papiani.
Wow.
Monday, September 11th, is the Remembrance Ceremony at 6 p.m. at the Memorial Fountain at Lake Papiani. And Saturday, September 23rd, is the Fall Family Spectacular at Amboy Avenue, 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Any other points of light? And back to the agenda. 9, from the Business Administrator. A, resolution awarding contract purchase order for 1-year renewal for GPS real-time tracking systems, $154,360. And B, resolution of the Township of Edison authorizing memorandum of agreement with OPI EU. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patil.
Quick question through Council President to our administrator. Is this GPS used by DPW, EPD, fire, all the departments, or this is exclusively for one department?
No, this is for various departments, and the supporting documents is for administration, code enforcement, engineering, fire prevention, municipal garage maintenance equipment, health, parks and trees, buildings and grounds, recreation, streets and roads, sewer, tax assessor, water, fire department, police department, sanitation, and additional police department gateways, 10 gateways. So there's 138 units out of the police department, just to clarify the distinguish between the two.
And do we know we need more licenses? Like I did not hear auxiliary police, especially because they are also on the ground and serving the residents. Also, the auxiliary fire, probably those areas also important. But my question is, how many vehicles we have? These 138 license, are they good enough, or we should probably procure more?
I'm sorry, your question is with
Are
regard
these
to...
good enough, those number of licenses, or we are looking forward to improve or put
This
more?
is what we currently have as far as a fleet.
That's capped out, but we don't have the other, some of the areas that I mentioned, those are not covered here. So my question is, are we looking forward to invest more into this specific line item? That's my question.
When we add vehicles, we do put in for additional.
Okay. Just my request is to at least cover our auxiliary brothers and sisters. That would be helpful. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none. 10, Department of Finance. I already went through the list before, so we want to revisit any of those items. Councilman Patil.
Yes, I'll be very brief on most of these items because we had in-depth discussion, and thank you, Ken, for updating those. This is roughly $50 million give and take. Somewhere I counted $51.3 million bonds, excluding the line item G, which is a separate capital project. Do we know how much we applied for the FEMA out of this 50 million? I know there is no guarantee they are going to approve everything, or we don't know that, but
As Mr. Smith mentioned, we're on the 4th go-around of inspectors, so we're putting in for as much as possible, and our engineers are working with us on those claims. And, I could just tell you in one example anecdotally about something that happened, with the tropical storm Ida with the Public Works garage, they asked why we put in waterproofing. So those are the types of things that we are encountering with FEMA. So it's very challenging. So that's why we had to move forward and not rely solely on what FEMA is going to give us, but we have to be proactive, make these repairs, and then sort out what we can get, and we're going to push for as much as possible.
Understood, but my question is very basic, like how much we applied for. Forget about how much will be approved, but
The applications are not complete yet. Everything's in process.
Okay.
So, while portions of the projects have been submitted, we're going to be submitting even more.
okay, just to again baseline, the same question here, are we anticipating at least 15, $20 million in that ballpark we're going to apply? Or 10 million? I'm just looking at the ballpark. I'm not going to hold you for that number, but at least we need to have some gut feel what we can get covered.
Yeah, I'd be guessing if I gave you an answer.
That's fine.
We'd be very happy if we got half
Okay.
back from FEMA.
Okay.
Based upon the way they're reviewing things.
Okay, that's the good enough. And how much we are expecting from Cap Bank out of this 51?
From the iBank?
Yes, iBank.
Nothing for those pumping stations, because we did apply, they wouldn't approve funding for those projects. So that's why we're solely dependent on FEMA and our insurance carrier, the JIF.
The reason my question is, Council President, is very simple. It's a $51 million. It's not a small amount. And we already have, I don't know, how much is current or debt obligation in terms of bonds?
How much is the current obligations that we have outstanding, all total?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll bear with me 1 second, I've got that information for you. So currently, our municipal debt limit based upon our ratables is $657 million. We have net debt outstanding of $136 million, and therefore we have additional borrowing capacity of $500 million.
Understood. Yep. So our ratings are pretty good. We are in good financial health.
Yes. Yeah, our debt outstanding is using the state's ratio. You could do up to 3.5%. Ours is less than 1%. So
Understood.
We're in good shape.
Understood. What will be our, in case, say hypothetically, we don't get any money from FEMA, we don't get any money from insurance, and we're going to bond this $51 million, which is probably 1/3 of what we borrowed in last, probably the X number of years this township exists, which is very aggressive to me. But again, we need to spend. That's infrastructure need. I'm not debating on that. With the current market rate, what will be our the payment? Like, what's going to be our net payout from this for this capital, just for $50 million?
Well, we have not only the 51 million that you see here, but we're going to have probably another 70 million coming soon after that.
Understood.
So one of the things that we're discussing right now with administration is to do formal water and sewer rate studies, because we have to now begin looking at, as we're doing these 20, 30, and 40-year improvements, how we're going to pay for them. And we're taking, we're being aggressive pursuing funding from FEMA and other sources, but on the other hand, we also have to be somewhat conservative, and if we had to pay all of it, what's it going to cost, and how could we make it with the least amount of impact to ratepayers?
Understood, but this all money will be tied to our water and sewer budget, correct?
Correct. Not to the taxpayer, it'll be to the ratepayers.
Correct, and this will especially hit the south end of the town.
Exactly.
Yep, and that's where, my concern comes in, is because there are 12,000 unique meters, and this is a steep pricing for them. But as I said, like, we need to invest, but if we know our obligations towards the payout yearly, and what is the direct impact in terms of the rate increase, over a period of time, I'm not talking, and the reason I'm saying this one is, I have one more line item, which is, Middlesex Water Company is increasing their, this year's rate is 31%. The bill is going to go up by 31%. And the reasoning they gave is they want to invest in infrastructure and there's a cost went up and all that stuff. As a township, we can't afford to do that, 31% increase in one shot.
No.
So that's where I was coming, and what is the impact to the residents over a period of next 30 years? Are we looking every year 2%, 3%, or we don't know yet that number?
But we don't know. Like I said, and I prefer not to guess, but that's why we want to engage in these long-term rate studies so that we can have a plan that avoids peaks and valleys in the rate, and that we try to come up with a stabilized rate plan.
Okay, because we do have a reference from Suez, that's the good thing is, Suez did leave us a lot of material, the documentation, and they had that rate plan, the water rate increase. If we can look that back and if we keep it under that and still invest in our infrastructure, that would be really
That would be
helpful.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I agree.
My last question is, again, it's my favorite topic, is our water meter. I'm really not happy, honestly. Because when I served on the Water Utility Committee, I was told because of the mismanagement from the earlier water company, the township would be suing them and recovering them for all the water meters, all the lost revenue and whatnot. And yet I see this investment of $8.8 million. You did mention that there is a lawsuit and we are settling down with $2 million. Will that $2 million will be added to the water utility, or that will be added to the regular budget? And the reason I'm saying this one is because everything that we are talking here deals with the south end. We don't want to penalize those residents. If something is getting settled, it has to be credited towards the right bucket here.
Yeah, so just as a point of correction, we did not receive $2 million from American Water Company. The economic terms of the transfer of Edison Water Company was that we agreed to purchase their accounts receivable for approximately $2.1 million. And because of some of the shortfalls within the system as it was transferred, we ended up settling for a payment of $2,121,000.
But that was for the outstanding payments, right?
That was for the outstanding payments. We received no funds in consideration for anything else from New Jersey American.
Okay, that's
with the
not
transfer.
the good news. The reason is, again, I'll be very honest with you. I was told back then our attorney, Bill Norgave, that he will be suing the American Water Company to recoup for the meters, especially replacing the meter. I'm not saying all 12,000, but at least the one they were outdated, they were not functioning, the one they were disrepair, they couldn't find the parts, and we had to go and replace them. So the cost of that replacement at least should have been recouped. Forget about the rest, inventory and all that. We spoke at length, including the having 5-year inventory and all that stuff. I'm not even counting on that, but at least we should have gotten something back from the old water company. But again, if we have not received, I can't say anything. That will be questioned to maybe through our administrator to go back to Attorney Bill Norgave and find out who dropped the ball here.
Councilman Patil, what we can do is go back to see what the agreement or settlement agreement, what the terms were. But just a point of clarification, the water rate study affects all residents, all water users, not South Edison. I know you brought that up, but it's user-based, not targeted to anyone.
No, it is. The reason I said South End is mostly this water, the Edison water is not serving the entire town. The North End is Middlesex Water Company, and that's why I have another topic of discussion is 31% rate increase. So any of the line item here doesn't impact the north end of the town. The settlement will also not impact the north end of the town. It will be unfair if we are.
Again, we'd have to confirm that.
Yes,
and we can provide that to
absolutely.
you.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
This is,
Department of Finance,
yes.
Councilman Brescher.
Yes. under G, these are for our capital improvements. Could I get a list of exactly what we're doing? Like, I did notice that we had a list, and I think there was like $4.9 million, I think, for a building.
Yeah, the roads garage.
Right, and where is that building that we're gonna be doing that work? Where's that garage gonna be? On what property? What street is it on?
It's the replacement of the roads garage that was affected by what part of the FEMA conversation we've been having. It's replacing the old roads garage.
Okay, not the one that burned down, which was like a shed.
That is the one.
It's the shed thing that
Right.
burned down. Okay. Yes, and there were like line items in there that I seen, like park improvements, I think it said $200,000, right? And anybody that's looked at any of these agendas, shoot, $200,000 doesn't even cover your engineering costs, for park improvements, because we hire the engineers to give us the design for the fences, right? And how we put footings in for fences. They design everything. So what I noticed was it was like I think it was $200,000. I can't find it on my phone to quote it, but there was like
It's 250,000, sir.
250,000. Can you read all the items that we're going to take care of for 250,000?
It's for making some general improvements to some of the courts, some of the fields, the trails, parking, security, playgrounds, and related equipment.
Okay, so you just mentioned, let's say, 7 items.
Yes.
Right, that I have to divide into $200,000, and I'm just, I guess what I'm saying is I don't see what you're going to be able to do with that $200,000. Like, is that to replace like the little link on the chain link fence? You know what I mean? Or is that to buy? I don't even know what I haven't seen us spend $200,000 on like one item, never mind on these 7 items in multiple parks. So can I get a list?
This is meant to be general improvements
Right,
instead
so what
as
I'm
opposed
asking
to a
for
major
is, right, what I'm asking
project.
for is a list, right? You said parks. Give me a list of what parks, what fields you're doing, what fences you're doing, what amounts to $200,000 that you're going to do. Because to me, it looks like you don't have an agenda to fix anything. It looks like you're just looking to bond money. So you have like, we'll call it a slush fund. That's what the taxpayers call it. So I'd just like a list of them.
Okay.
And the other items, Council President, I think we hashed through those before, so I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilman Patel?
Ken, I had a question. You said that there were some pump stations that only FEMA can pay for and not iBank. Why is that?
For some reason, the iBank won't approve the projects if there's funding coming from other sources.
Okay. And, all right. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. For myself, I just want to make mention in regards to item F with the approval of items of revenue. There is one specific item in there in regards to the enhancing local public health infrastructure for $707,000, which I know someone had reached out to us about, so I'm very happy to see the administration follow through on that, and that we were able to receive those funds. In regards to the capital improvements bond, I understand the point that my colleague to the right is making in regards to having an itemized list. I do see, though, that there is, with some vagueness, like you can have flexibility to be able to address items as they come up. So as an example, one of the items later on is in regards to engineering fees for basketball courts. We're eventually, presumably, going to actually do the work to repair those courts. So we have items that We may already have to kind of create a list, but I do see where having that flexibility could be beneficial. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. 11, from the Department of Health. A, resolution accepting funds for DMHAS Youth Leadership Grant Funding for the Edison Municipal Alliance. And B, resolution authorizing the acceptance of funding for the Edison Municipal Alliance grant for fiscal year 2024. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. 12, from the Department of Law. And actually, we are adding. I apologize. As I said, it's quite a large agenda. We are actually adding item B, which is, well, A is the resolution authorizing a settlement agreement, which we went into closed session, and B, which I believe was handed out to my colleagues. This is a resolution designating redeveloper regarding area in need of redevelopment, known as Block 412, Lot 5.04, 1000 Inman Avenue, and authorizing the execution of an interim cost agreement. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none. 13, from the Department of Planning and Engineering. A, resolution authorizes release of $100,000 from the Township's Affordable Housing Development Trust Fund to serve properties and management to be used for the purchase, due diligence, and closing costs of a township property that will provide 4 units of supportive shared living housing. B, resolution provides for refund of permit for canceled job. C, resolution refunding cash performance bond to Victory Builders. D, resolution release and maintenance bond. E, resolution refunding of tree maintenance bonds. F, resolution approving a qualified pool of consulting engineers for consideration for engineering projects on an as-need basis. G, resolution accepting bid and awarding contract for improvements to Yolanda Drive, $202,288. H, resolution accepting bid and awarding contract for boiler replacements at Fire Station Number 3, Fire Station Number 4, $78,640. And I, resolution authorizing change order number 1 for the Toth Health and Senior Center renovation. Any questions,
Council
comments, or
President?
concerns? Yes, Councilwoman Schifferman.
Number A, the authorizing of $100,000 from the Affordable Housing Development Fund to serve properties and management. We're giving them money to prepare the shared living housing, $25,000 per unit? Like, who are these, who are we giving this to? Is it a private firm or is it?
So when I was researching, I'm not sure if it's SERV or SERV, but they are a licensed vendor through the Affordable Housing Department, for lack of better words, to be able to offer services. The supportive shared living assists primarily like, I don't want to say mental health or disability, but it's to do assisted livings along those guidelines.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of, there was one last year, but I think it actually got pulled because the house purchase didn't go through. But my understanding is that if these funds are used for the purchase of the house, then this house has to remain in as an affordable unit, I believe, up to 30 years. So
Special needs people will be in this, and so will serve profit after we give them the $100,000 to fix up all the places, then they will be able to make money?
So this house is actually already renovated. I looked up what the property was. It's already renovated, pretty much ready to be lived in. So it's for the purchase of the property. You'd be okay with me asking Mr. Bignell to clarify if there are any questions?
I thought it was the kind of house I said, but I want more clarity on it, because I know those people live in those kind of houses.
Good evening, everyone. The money that's being spent is out of the Affordable Housing Fund. It's part of the spending plan that was approved by the courts and by the council. And what will happen is this money will be used for closing costs and a down payment to purchase this property to be used for people of special needs. And it's deed restricted for 30 years, so it goes according, if we get 4 credits in our affordable housing count,
How long is the deed restriction?
30 years.
It's 30 years? Oh, that's good. Okay, I like that. All right. So that's why they'll be able, those type of people will be able to live there. So they won't be able, so the guy that's purchasing and stuff will not be getting 2 tons of profits off of
Oh, no,
that.
no. This is the manager of the property and to take care and to
Thank
provide
you,
for those
sir.
people.
I just wanted clarity. And one other thing I wanted to ask, not you, sir.
Well, there's a whole bunch of, I can walk back and forth, I can stand
Okay,
there.
because
So
I'm
this is
going
for
with,
questions.
I now. I'm going with I now for the resolution authorizing the change order for the public bid.
On the tote center?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I guess they ran into asbestos and we had to make some changes so we can make sure that that's remediated.
You know, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm going from time to time, and people make bids, and other people make bids, but they don't make it. But after this person gets a bid, then they can go back and say, oh, no, that wasn't enough. I need more. And I keep seeing more and more of that, of the people going back afterwards. Like, who's doing the inspections from the beginning before the bids come about? Because I don't think that's right that you set me a price, and then here you come asking me for more money, like we a cash cow.
I understand your concern, but
Yes.
that's
No,
the
no,
problem.
that- yeah,
They
that-
didn't bid on that, a removal of the asbestos, so that's where it became as an extra.
Okay.
It didn't come to light until after the project was awarded.
Okay, so before the bidding project, we're not making people aware, because we're not aware of the asbestos and stuff that's,
They missed it when they did the appraisal of what had to be done. So when you open walls and things, you find stuff that you don't normally see, and you don't see it until you start opening walls and doing that kind of doing the kind of work that you need to do.
I understand. I watch HGTV when the prices go up like that. I watch HGTV. And I kind of figure when they say, well, we got a problem here, a structural problem, and then they ask for extra money. Okay, one of my favorite shows. But I see this more and more. People keep going back. That's just my whole issue with it. Not so much as the asbestos and other stuff, but I wish that they would, if they're gonna bid with a little cushion, because something you might not find later on. To me, it'll be better.
I can tell you after sitting in several of these meetings to award the contracts, now the pre-construction meeting, we pretty much tell them we don't want to see any change orders. So it really has to be an emergency type of situation where we would even consider it. Asbestos is a very serious thing.
Yes. All right, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Councilwoman Patel.
Council President, yeah. Question on A, this is 233 Loring Avenue, I believe so, if the lot and block are correct. As per the record, it says a 2-unit house. I don't know, I might have to visit there and see if it is a 4-unit house there. But again, that has nothing to do.
It's not number of units, it's number of credits
Bedrooms?
that we're going to get. We're going to get 4 credits taken off our total number.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not the number that's going to live there. They're individuals. We get 4 credits, so it's like 4 affordable housing units, but it's only one house.
Understood. But what I'm saying is this address, if it is a single family house, we are taking the credit of 4 units. Technically, we are saying this is a multifamily house.
It's not a multifamily house. It might be, it's shared, okay, but it's only, we get 4 credits off our affordable housing count. Has nothing to do with how, there's not 4 units, there's only 1 unit. They use it as one single household.
Hopefully, as long as owner stays on that. And on G, Yolanda Drive, what are we doing there? Excavation.
Which one, I'm sorry, so which one are you talking about now?
G, resolution accepting bid and awarding contract to Stelo Excavation for improvement to Yolanda Drive.
This is a drainage project that's been in the works. It's been designed to solve the ponding in the road. It's pipe work, road work. So this is going to solve one of the drainage issues that we have up there, reoccurring all the time.
Because there is some sort of a creek or something, right? Water line.
There's something in it, yeah. It's resurfacing, drainage improvements. The roadway is to be resurfaced. The inlet and piping will be installed at the intersection. and eliminate all the ponding that's created up there.
I know, but it's kind of a small pond there because it's kind of a water creek there. The
there-
issue is, my question is, we have so many of sites like this, and if we can get it done, this will be a model for us to go in other areas. I'm happy to see that. My only the question is DP involved into this project?
Excuse me?
DEP is involved into this project?
No, this is a contractor. Stillo, I think, is the contractor. He'll be out to do it and we'll inspect it, I believe.
Can we excavate something that is already water line?
Can we, I'm sorry.
There's that, the water runs from that area.
We're gonna solve the problem in the street. So we're not gonna have any more ponding and we're gonna fix the drainage area.
Understood. I know you're trying to fix the problem. My question is that area, you need a permission to dig from DEP.
I don't believe so, no. It's part of the process if it is. It's already gonna be.
Again, I said, like, and I'm happy to see this type of project coming on the agenda. My only the question is some places, because I was given a reason that, hey, DEP is involved here, we can't do it. But I see something, hey, we can't do it.
We're fixing the pipe and the stuff in the road that we have control over,
Okay.
okay?
The next one is actually the last one, Councilman covered here. What is our net cost as of today per square feet on this project?
For the tote
Tote
center?
center, yes.
It's in the resolution, it's $5,310,000.
I just want to know the rough, our per square feet cost to build.
That's what they've awarded, so, plus the 20,000, I believe, to change the change order.
I know the total amount is $5 million. How many square feet we have building? Sonia, do you know?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
How many square feet?
How many square feet the building is? Square feet,
The tote center, the square footage? I can find that out for you.
okay. Because, 4 million, 3 million, these change orders will keep coming, it will be we need to watch the construction cost here, what's the square feet that comes in the play. I have, many questions, but not on this agenda, but towards the tail end of the agenda, I have a question for engineering department. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other questions or comments?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brescher.
Yeah, just a question on the resolution approving qualified pool of consulting engineers. I didn't see any dollar amounts or percentages. It just looked like like you were reviewing to see what companies would be acceptable to you.
Yes, personally, our department didn't get to review that list, but it came from the other departments, and they were ranked. I guess, I'm not sure the order of ranking, but they ranked a whole bunch that submitted. And these are the ones that are recommended, so that the town, if they have smaller projects, can award some of these to different engineers besides the ones that we currently use, if they have a specialty in those things. But there's no money involved yet.
Yeah.
To our attorney.
Sure, if I could amplify that answer for Councilman Brescher. Under the local public contracts law, for certain professionals, it's not required that you do proposals, but you can do a qualified list. So what this here is a list of qualified individuals that have responded to likely to an RFQ.
Let me ask you a question, David. Technically, let's say that these were horrible engineering firms, just for argument's sake.
Right.
Let's say that, they couldn't add 1 + 1, right? They're really that bad at engineering. Under the professional service contract thing, can't you just award them the contract?
No.
And say that you think they're good? Like, you think they're good, but an engineer doesn't think they're good. So you think they're good, and you reviewed them, and you scored them real high, but the engineer didn't. Can't you and the administration just award a professional contract? Because you've done that in the past here. What I'm saying is...
I don't understand your question at all. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe I can help a little bit.
Yeah.
I believe when you have a project that comes up, before we award it to them, we're going to ask them to see what their work history is in that type of correction. Maybe it'd be, redesigning a water line or something, and I'm using a sewer connection or a manhole or a landfill stuff or whatever. If they haven't got history in doing that kind of work, certainly I'm not going to recommend that they get awarded a contract.
And certainly, if you have a list, doesn't mean that they're going to do anything.
Okay.
All it means is that they're a
Here's-
qualified list,
okay,
but that you may draw from that list.
Okay, here's
Yeah.
my question. Last year, where's my qualified list for the engineers?
I'm sorry?
Did we have a list last year of the qualified engineers?
I'm not
'Cause
a-
I don't believe we did. I believe every time something came up, you came to this body and you said, we'd like to use this firm for X amount of dollars, and we reviewed it.
And you will still do that. You will absolutely still do that. Any contract that is awarded will still come before this body.
Okay, so my question is, if you didn't do this last year, why are we doing this year?
'Cause we're
And
trying
you're
to
showing me
improve.
like a scoring system, right? But I don't know who scored it. Did the engineer score it? Because the engineer should be the guy that went and scored it, not let's say the BA. She knows nothing about engineering, or I don't think she does. She might. Or the purchasing agent, right? She doesn't know about engineering. The engineer should be the one doing the scoring. Who did the scoring? Who did that? Who
I
put that
can't tell
together?
you who scored it, but what I can tell you, though, is that any contract that comes back before this body,
Right.
you will see the
we
engineer,
normally do.
and you can ask them all the questions that you want. So you're not losing anything by having a qualified list. It doesn't take a step away from council. You will have all the steps. All it does is basically say, we've reviewed these individual firms, to see whether they meet a certain level of qualification, and we believe they do.
And who did
But
this?
what? I don't know who was on the scoring committee. Yeah.
So you understand,
yeah.
they're scoring it for, they have the proper years of experience. Are they professional engineers? Do they have all the criteria to operate in the state of New Jersey? Do they have the right licenses and things like that? Do they have insurance? And then there's a list. So then when we have a project that comes up, fix a a park, or fix a tennis court, or build a pickleball court, whatever, we can go through the list and then qualify them then to see have you done this kind of work before?
Well, let me ask you a question. What did we do last year? What have we done for the last 30 years?
May I?
Yes.
Okay. Given that we have a nearly $50 million bond ordinances here, in order to have a pool of engineers that could provide us with proposals, it's best that we put out an RFQ to essentially qualify various engineers, have various options in order to work on all of these large projects. So this is all it does, is it gives us opportunity to equally disperse all of these projects, if you will.
And we will score them when they a bid. If we put something out for a bid and or an RFP to come back, how many of these projects have you done in the past? What's your history? If it's doing subdivisions and not putting in drainage, well, then they don't really meet the criteria.
Well,
If it's do surveying or whatever, something, whatever they specialize in.
I get it. You just incorporated another step into
We're trying
whatever
to
you're
broaden
doing.
the base. We're trying to broaden the participation,
Exactly.
and we're moving forward.
But as a professional
moving
engineer,
forward.
as a professional service, right? If you know CME, because you've worked with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could give them the work that you know that they do well. You can give T&M the work. You can give whoever you want. You being an engineer, right? You know who's qualified at a lot of these things, who
Well,
does
I
work
think
for.
the issue also is how much work can they handle? I mean, there's a lot of work that's being given out here in Edison, and everything's in a timely fashion, and you can't stretch everybody out so that the work doesn't get done. They don't meet their deadline. So that's why we're broadening the base so we can evaluate. I mean, CME's they're very good engineers. T&M, I've never had any problems. They're wonderful engineers. Remington
now
and
that- now
Vernick,
that-
McDonald, Hatchmont McDonald.
Now
with the
that
water
goes-
lines and
that's
stuff.
a-
They all have specialties.
Well, when I looked at that list, right, I didn't see T&M on the list. But
They didn't
but
bid.
they're qualified to do work, so we're not going to give them any more work in Edison?
Well, that's not the point. The point is to give us a list of people we can work towards.
So you're not going to go to T&M because they didn't put in a bid?
Well, T&M's busy doing a lot of other things in town right now. So next year when we do this again, their workload may be less, and they may want to be considered.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
And some of the big guys are being bought out by even bigger guys, and their focuses are different. So you're getting some new people, some new blood. And that's
No,
what this is all
I
about.
was just shocked that I didn't see T&M on there. They did work for us, and I didn't understand why we wouldn't have considered to give them any more work
Well,
for
let me
a
tell
year.
you, a
But-
very good engineering firm will not bite off more than they can chew.
Okay,
So I think that might be one of the conditions right here.
Right. So for all the engineering projects we have, I'm going to look at this group of people, and that's what I'm going to see then. Okay. I'm
And
good.
and one other thing, Councilman, if there's something that we need to have done that we don't believe they really specialize in, then we'll put out another RFP, so we get more people that do the work that we're looking for them to do. So we get a real professional job in a timely fashion. Hopefully that makes sense.
It's okay.
We're
Thank
trying.
you.
We're trying to straighten out engineering, and we've come a long way. And quite frankly, adding more people to the mix is a very good thing.
No, yeah, I
More
just don't know
competitive, it's
why
fair.
we didn't do this. We
Okay.
keep on changing the process. That was my point.
Moving
We're trying to
forward.
refine the process.
Okay, moving forward, any more questions? Councilman Brescher?
Well, let me ask you a question. We don't have a president and we don't have a vice president.
I'll answer that one. The
does
council
that
president
work?
asked me for a legal opinion. He said, I have to leave momentarily. What do I do? And I gave, my opinion to him was he could assign somebody in his absence for that momentary period. So I believe that's what he did. Yeah.
Did he?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
He handed me this.
I have a question.
Or the text?
Councilman Patel, I have a small
The
question.
meeting has
Another
fallen
question?
apart.
Question.
No,
No, I
okay,
think we're all right.
I'm
We're
good.
all right.
Councilman Coyle?
The senior
Hank, the
most-
only question I have is that, and I'm fine, I perfectly understand what you're trying to do, and for those who don't and have extra questions, is their opinion. But what I'm always concerned with, and I don't need an answer today, is the project management follow-up. We have a lot of projects going on in Edison, we have a lot of engineers, you're reaching out to more, somewhat more work, some have less, some are filled for the season. Later, I'd love to see how and what your methods are to make sure each project is moving along in a fashion where we're, who's kicking the can? Because that's, every day we can't do that, but the turf field was finished on time and that worked out well, and I'm happy about that. But I don't need an answer today, but it's a question I want to speak about later, is what methods we have in place to
I
continue.
can give you a quick answer. First, we've hired people to keep engineers to keep an eye on the projects. That's part of their bid, whatever. We've done that. And you've also approved my budget recently, which talks about increasing the staff and more engineers and stuff, and start bringing the stuff in-house and doing a lot of that work in-house and saving the community some money. So that's our focus for the next year
Okay,
or so.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Council Member Ms. Patel.
Any more questions from any council members?
The senior person is supposed to do.
That's okay. You can,
Where's the lights going out?
That's not true.
go ahead.
You can continue.
Moving forward, from the Department of Public Works, A, resolution to release street opening escrow. B, resolution authorizing contract purchase order to World Construction, Inc. for installation of retaining wall at Mini B Wheel Recreation Center. C, resolution authorizing contract purchase order to Ben Schaefer Recreation for the installation of a sand volleyball court at Hale Park. D, resolution rejecting all bids for chases for refuse trucks. E, resolution awarding contract purchase orders to Consolidate Steel and Aluminum Fence Co., Inc. for the furnishing and fencing of the Township Recycling Yard. F, resolution authorizing the professional service contract to CME Associate for engineering service for design and construction administration for various recreation hard courts upgrades throughout the township.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Schaefer.
I just want to ask some questions about B and C. Mini Bville, why do they need a restraining wall? Retaining, sorry.
The current retaining wall is wood, for lack of better words, and it's kind of like bowing out the last time I went there. So I think.
No, I'm just looking at it because the building itself was made of crap. It was made out of cinder blocks and stuff, so I was just wondering, I thought maybe they were gonna do something to improve that. But you said that they're gonna improve that.
So this is the retaining wall around the parking lot. So this would be replacing that in its entirety, to my understanding. I believe it's something like 400 linear feet. It's quite a long wall.
Correct.
there when it opened.
It essentially, Council President, it essentially covers up the parking lot area. So what it does, it's essentially just kind of buckling. So rather than something happening, we're trying to take appropriate measures and replacing. So this is a replacement of that retaining wall.
Okay. No, if you go down to DPW, you'll see pictures of me when they first built the place. I was there at that, because I've seen them inside the building too, so I thought maybe they were doing stuff inside the building too, because they closed it off that way.
We had previously authorized for door and window replacements as well as flooring replacements, so they might be doing that work right now, but
Yeah,
I
that's, yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, yeah, because I see this on here, but I figured out the part now. With the volleyball court at Hale Park, when they do those volleyballs, do they take care of the water that just stands there? Because, you know, even when I look at it on maps, there's like puddles of water like sitting there at Hale Park. So are we gonna do some kind of drainage or something? Because, you know, that's a mess when you go out to play the volleyball and you gotta splash through the water with boots on to play. You know, so I just, you know, while they're doing that, I figure with that price, you know, they can at least spend, you know, a couple of thousand getting the drainage right.
I'll reach out to the DPW director and ask about the drainage aspect.
Yeah, because I get tired of people just, because even I looked at, what's that, Swells Park, when they were doing stuff, and they had puddles of water there. And I get tired of people sending me pictures of puddles of water. So I want this to be done correctly there at Hale Park, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions or comments? For myself, in regards to the Mini Beeville retaining wall, one item of note is that 75,000 of that is actually being covered through a grant. And in regards to item F for the court upgrades, those are figured to be, these are figured for the engineering services at Mini Beeville, Swells Park, Hale Park, Dwyer Park, North 8th Avenue Park, Winter Street Park, Paternity Park, Yolances Park, and Central Park. And as of particular note with Winter Street, that should tackle that big surface there that was previously complained about.
So Council President, are they gonna say what they're putting there? Are they gonna, it's pickleball, you know, basketball, tennis, what are, you know?
I recall it saying basketball courts, but I don't know if our BA can clarify on that.
What we're going to try to do is repair what's currently there and bring it up to standards. So just to kind of connect back to our improvement authorization bond ordinance, without these professional proposals, we won't know exactly what the estimate costs are. So this may take a little bit of time, so hopefully next year we can then have an improvement authorization that covers up some of these improvements. So you're looking nearly 10 park locations here.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Actually, a question that kind of comes to mind, with those estimates, do we, after the engineer provides the cost estimate, do we pad that number at all? And the reason why I ask, the Yolanda Drive, the initial estimate was approximately 160,000 that the engineering firm had stated, but this is it was for 202,000. So I'm just curious if we pad that number for what we figure the expense might be.
I can certainly bring it up, but what happened is it goes out to bid, and then we get obviously a larger number based on whatever the current situation is. But I can certainly bring that to our engineer's attention.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. Any other questions or comments? 15, from the Department of Recreation. A, resolution authorizing reimbursement for recreation trips, and B, resolution authorizing reimbursement for Edison Recreation adult membership. Any questions or concerns? 16, from the Department of Water and Sewer. A, resolution authorizing contract purchase order for the purchase of a chipper with loader, $245,506. Any questions or concerns?
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Patil.
what is the purpose of this machine, chipper with loader?
It's terminology is going to be off, but pretty much the shred bushes and
Understood.
trees.
That's what I thought, but this should be technically DPW.
Yeah.
Why this is water and
So
sewer?
in the memo it said because of the easements that are under the water and sewer oversight, and in the ACO, one of the items is that they have to maintain those easements in terms of making sure that they're clear.
Understood, but are we expecting the water sewer guys driving this machine and doing the work, or we'll be asking DPW person to go and do the work?
This is for the water and sewer department to maintain
Understood.
those easements, so they will be doing the work.
That's interesting, because this is our internal house business. Typically, we do use the uh, code, building and code budget to buy some of the vehicles, which technically, we can probably shuffle here and there, but that's where I would call it a shared service within our own internal departments, and have the appropriate, so this machine, if you just tag it for water and sewer department, they're not going to use on every day. Whereas this would be more beneficial to DPW, who would be using that more often. You can purchase this under one department, but technically it should be shared with someone else. So we have that collaboration within our department and save some cost here.
I think that may be a matter of semantics in terms of where the money may go, but we do have a very good sound sanitation budget. So what some of this comes out of, I can confirm that. But with the maintenance of the easements, which haven't really been maintained, it's going to be a large project. So being able to do that in-house through the water and sewer and not inundating DPW, which are doing all other improvements to our 34-plus parks, I think this is probably the best approach in terms of operations from a day-to-day perspective.
Understood, but just we have to be careful when we say water and sewer. Water is just one part of the town, sewer is for the entire town. How do we manage those costs? Again, that becomes a questionable right there. And that is what I was saying, if we can isolate that somewhere else until tag appropriate funds to probably sewer, not to the water department, that would be helpful. But again, that's probably my way of thinking of optimizing the cost within the township. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Patel?
So I just want to confirm, so DPW will not be able to use this even if it's sitting unused?
Oh, no, of course they would. I mean,
Okay.
it's a township's piece of equipment. There's no
Just making sure.
exclusivity.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Seeing none. 17 from the Chief of Fire. A, approval of 2 volunteer firefighters. And B, resolution authorizing contract purchase order for 1 Chevrolet Tahoe, $47,547. Any questions or concerns?
Is that a hybrid?
That was my next question.
There is no hybrid Tahoe, I don't think, not yet.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't believe
No.
so.
That's not.
Any other questions or concerns?
Council President, can I ask a question on this?
Sure, Councilman Patel.
Yes, this is probably traditional approach, we are continuing to purchase the Ford, Chevy, and all that fine. But do we know with the newer company that are coming up with the electric vehicles that are equally compatible or powerful as these cars or the trucks? Maybe it's a food of thought, but not for today, and I'm good with that. I'm asking because there is a mandate coming from governor. I don't know that's really applies to the government agency yet, but
Many
in general.
municipalities, to answer your question, Councilman, many municipalities are looking for electric vehicles across the board, and they are years away. That's what
Right.
they are hearing. So as you're asking for that, every municipality is asking for it. Unfortunately, the inventory is just not there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have a question. I believe this is replacing a totaled vehicle. Is this being covered through insurance or anything like that?
Yes, and I can confirm the amount.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. 18 from the Chief of Police. A, resolution approving participation in 2023 New Jersey State Body Armor Replacement Grant Funding Program. B, resolution amending vendor name on resolution R559-082022 for online training software. C, resolution accepting bid and awarding contract for the management and administration of the police off-duty detail. And D, resolution accepting bid and awarding a contract for school crossing guards services not to exceed $900,000. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, can I ask the chief to explain that one to me about the management of the off-campus, off-duty?
Sure. Chief.
Good evening. That's EDS, Extra Duty Solutions, and they manage our all off-duty work. We've had them, they've been our vendor for quite a few years.
Okay, no, because I was just looking at it at a management standpoint. Because we have like, that manages all the way from the captains on down.
All off-duty work for our police officers. They manage everything.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilman Patil?
Council President, Councilman, there is history to that. If you research, you will find that why it was brought in. But on D, do you have any backup plan, mitigation plan in case this vendor fails to perform?
Councilman, yes, we do. As we have in the past, our police department will take care of that. It looks like we'll probably have to have a hybrid system that we have already got in place in order to manage that for the children until, they take on the full responsibility. But we are so looking forward to it.
Okay, and then hopefully that, this will be successful and we can probably have our officers going on the ground and doing the other work. But it's good to know that we have the mitigation plan because again, this is finger crossed. Hopefully everything goes fine.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Can I ask him 2 questions that's not on the paper while he's here, Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Okay, what I would like to know is the price of the security detail for our mayor and the ratio of supervisors to patrolmen when you get a chance.
Of course.
You don't have to answer me tonight. You can
No,
just.
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay.
Council President, Councilwoman, with all due respect, the nature and specifics of any security detail, of course, would be confidential. And
I want the
ratio-
price,
I'm sorry?
I just want the price that it's costing. I don't need to know all the intricate details of where you're going at night and all that. I just need to know how much that is costing us, because this is the first time, and I've been here since Ulensis, that I've seen somebody have a total security detail.
Again,
Chief, I would recommend that you don't answer that question now, that we have an opportunity to review any information you
Sure.
would provide on that through legal before you make any statements this evening. Thank you.
absolutely. Yes.
It's only your text messages going off for somebody else to attack you. That's all it is.
And the ratio, Councilwoman, would be, for patrol officers, would be 12%.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're
And
very-
guess what? Nobody's texting me. I don't do GPT chat, and I don't do AI. I have my own brain like some other people don't. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome.
Any other question? Yes, Councilman Patel?
On D, when will they take over full responsibility for the crossing guards?
I don't have a definitive answer for that yet.
Okay.
They've got to get their workforce in here. We're obviously speaking to them. It needs to be approved. But hopefully, I'm very optimistic within the first 3 weeks or so, possibly a month at the latest.
Thank you.
Chief,
Yes,
one resident spoke about hours in the contract. Do you have any man-hours we're getting approximately for the 900,000?
I don't have that. I can get that for you, though.
Email before we vote. We'll just approximate.
I'll get that for you.
Someone asked.
If I recall, I think the contract or the bid spec said 180 days, 2 posts per day, 3 hours minimum per post. So extrapolate that out times 53 posts.
All right. Well, if he
Wasn't
said he's
expecting you
doing
to
it, let him do
calculate
it.
it right now.
All right, good answer, Council President. I think we got the answer.
Thank you. Councilman Brescher?
Yes, this would be for Council President. I looked at the agenda briefly on Saturday, and then I looked at it today. In the scan pack, in the one section, it looked like it ended at 18C, and I didn't see D. Was that a separate attachment?
No.
No? So the contract's in there?
I know it's definitely in the R drive. If I can ask our clerk
Okay.
and deputy clerk to, if you can send that as a separate attachment.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there was also, I had requested that the previous bid that was rejected, that RFP, this RFP, and the bids that were received to be included.
Right, I guess we got 2 scan packs. I guess they were big because there were so many documents. Okay. I'll have to look at it on my
Yeah,
laptop.
to our clerk and deputy clerk, if you don't mind just resending that to our council, and thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah, Council President, my only the
Yes,
question is,
Councilman Patil.
I was hoping that all the department heads will stay until the discussion items here, because I have several questions for DPW, engineering, water department. It was not to, I didn't request them to cover just for agenda. It's their regular job to cover those. But I had several questions, and I hope, probably Sonia will take the notes of it and provide the answer by Wednesday, or they can come on Wednesday here and answer all those questions.
Just because I understand the point, but because this is still on the agenda, is it okay just to close out
That's the
agenda?
reason I'm going through the agenda. I did not
Oh,
ask
sorry,
extra
sorry,
question to
I
any
got it.
department heads, because I was waiting till the end. But I don't see except police chief, everybody left here.
I understand. I do apologize.
No problem.
And any other questions or concerns? For myself, in regards to the crossing guards, just a couple of items that I saw in the bid spec that I think the residents would like to know. There's a section in there that does say employment continuity, current staffing. It says the selected vendor shall be required to offer position as a crossing guard in the Township of Edison to all current Edison crossing guards in good standing. Existing guards shall have a right of first refusal for the positions with the selected contractor. So I think it's good that we are looking, if someone wants to maintain their position as a crossing guard, that opportunity will be afforded. Another item in regards to the current rate, I like that the revision in the RFP actually specified that the Edison rate of pay is $19 per hour for the minimum of 3 hours. I remember last year when we were first discussing the crossing guards, the initial rate was at $13. So I'm happy to see that that would be a mandatory minimum for them to receive. Thank you. 19, from the Township Clerk. A, resolution approving 2023-2024 license term renewal for Kamini LLC. And B, resolution authorizing issuance of new plenary distribution liquor license to Chanut Yayan LLC. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman
On the
Patil.
first one, is this inactive and that's why, they applied to renew?
I had to wait for the special ruling from the state when you're in an active license.
Okay, so do we know if there is any duration, like 30 days, 60 days, if they are inactive, they lose?
They've been awarded given me authority to approve their renewals for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And the second one, is this a new license, right?
The one we're finally issuing from one of the bids we did.
Okay, do we know the sold price?
I believe that was 701,000.
701,000, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. 20, from the council member of the planning board, Councilman Patel.
So we had a planning board meeting on August 14th, where we had the master plan hearing. There was a strong turnout by the Clara Barton community, who was united in their displeasure of the 4 stories in their neighborhood, and also the concerns with traffic and safety of the pedestrians on Amboy Ave and Jackson Avenue. There will be one more meeting held for master plan on September 18th. So if you haven't had a chance to say something, you're more than welcome to come there, or you're also allowed to email the planning board secretary or myself or the chairman of the planning board, and they will forward your concerns to the master plan committee. In terms of the new cases, we heard P12-2023 Edison Land Investment LLC, Phase 8, which was better known as Supercharged. They had some issues that they needed to take care of, including the parking. They wanted additional 76 parking to be built out. They also took care of a lot of the tree buffers, and they also dealt with the lighting issue that the neighbors had. So this was all good. And in terms of old cases, we had case P5251 Thomas and Karen Shea, 1681 Woodland Ave. That will be carried over to September 18 as they're waiting on the reports from police and fire. There was also the case P11-2023 Yashraj 5, 39 Thomas Place. That's also being carried over to September 18th, waiting on police and fire. There was some issues also with the parking, and they're seeking a variance on the minimum setback. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 21, unfinished business, ordinances for further consideration, public hearing, and final adoption. 02179-2023, ordinance authorizing the sale of two township properties known as Block 491.01, Lot 30, and Block 491.01, Lot 33, Township of Edison, New Jersey. Any comments?
Councilor Patel?
Yes, Councilman Patil.
Is this one lot or there are multiple lots?
These are two separate lots.
separate
I believe
lots.
they're 25 by 100 deep, approximately each.
Good. And is the price set target is 100,000 per lot or it's for the combined both?
I believe it was per lot, but.
Per lot, correct.
Okay, because it says per parcel. However, it also says the minimum bid price for the property shall not be less than $100,000. So this again per lot or per parcel is.
When I read the initial backup document, they had each item pretty much was duplicated. So the first description was for the one lot, and then it repeated it again, but just changing the lot number.
Understood. So we are setting a minimum of $200,000, if I understand correctly.
Correct.
Okay. And this is also restricted to the adjacent owner. There are three neighbors around.
Contiguous landowners, correct.
Contiguous landowners.
Contiguous landowners.
I see the wording there that this property cannot be subdivided.
You're correct,
That's correct?
correct. It is in the language of the resolution as well.
Understood. However, these two lots will be 50 by 100 by 100 if they combine together.
They're actually separated by a 50 by 100 lot in between them.
Okay. What is, I don't see the condition that the one owner has to buy the two lots. And I'll come back to my point where I'm coming here.
It wouldn't be so in technicality, my understanding, I can be possibly wrong, but because of how the layout on the tax map is, if you bought the property on the right, because of how that center property separates them, there actually wouldn't be physically couldn't continuous
Understood.
around.
Understood. But that doesn't prohibit out of three, one person can buy, out of three, one person can buy one lot and second might buy second lot,
Yes, that's my understanding.
technically.
That will most likely be the way it would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
If that happens, you think the owner will be qualified for the hardship, and if he goes in front of the zoning board saying, I own a 50 by 100 lot and I need to build a house on this?
Well, you'd have to overcome the fact that he can't subdivide it in the resolution.
So they're not subdividing, they're buying this as a separate piece of property.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Let me run down the scenarios. If I'm one of the neighbor and I buy that lot, it doesn't prohibit me selling that lot to someone else. I can buy from you.
Correct, yes.
Right?
Right.
If I sell it to, say, Councilor Brescher, and Councilor Brescher goes in front of the zoning board and say, I have the hardship, I need to build on this. How it prohibits?
From a logistics standpoint, just based on like bulk, well,
Size,
I know
yes.
you're saying zoning, so bulk variances are slightly different. I don't know how you'd put a property on a 25 by 100 if you technically had to subdivide to sell it to maintaining bulk variances.
It will be, bulk. I
Can't
have
imagine
seen.
that ever being granted. I can't imagine it.
I'll tell you, I have the house that I can show you, literally give an example, where the house is built on the smallest lot, probably 5,000 square feet in North Edison, where the zone is RA zone.
I can't speak to what another board will do. I can only, I only advise this
Our board.
council. I'm saying,
Our
but
board.
no, I'm saying, you're asking me what the zoning board might approve, right?
All
That's
right.
your question to me. I can't, as sitting here as your counsel to this body, I cannot tell you what what the zoning board will do.
Understood, it's a fair enough. Again, that's a fair enough, and that is the reason every single time when the lot comes for the sale, I ask the deed restriction for that fact, that when, even if the original owners try to sell the lot, because there is a deed restriction, he cannot go in front of any board and ask for any approval.
I don't think that's legal. I don't think we can tell somebody
Because
that
we
they
have done
can't-
this. On this council dais, we have done this.
You have a list of people that cannot make any application before the zoning board?
We have put the deed restriction, nothing can be constructed on that property.
I would have to review that. I have serious concerns about that language that you're proposing, and I'd have to do some more research
It's
before I
not
could.
my,
agree.
it was back then who are the attorney who proposed.
Okay.
And this body was very serious about the hardship or any building on the lot that we are selling, because this is, again, I'm not saying we are not getting a fair price, it's a very fair price, 100,000. Only thing is, I don't want someone to come here, buy the lot and sell it to someone and come back.
I'll certainly do the research on it. I will look at that. You've posed a unique question this evening. I'm going to have to do some research.
Absolutely. If you can, sir, please get back to me by Wednesday, otherwise, I'll make my own speech, I'll give the examples, and I will vote no on this property. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other comments in regards? Councilman Brusher?
Just on that, I believe this topic came up. I believe I texted a copy or a address for, I think it was Fletcher, and asked to send it to the attorney.
Yes, we did a review. You didn't receive the response?
I didn't see one.
I'll dig it out again for you. Yes, we did.
That was like that's.
Yeah, that
my
sparked that whole
council
conversation
colleague-
about the property on
Yes,
your son's.
'cause it was a tiny property that should never have been allowed to be built, but it was allowed. You know, it was like a,
Right, and
it was like a 30 by 100 when the lots are supposed to be 100 by 100 in that area.
Planning actually did review that specific location, and I will get you that information again. We did send you an email on that. I actually came from planning.
That's exactly what my council colleague, that's what he's fearful of.
Right.
Is that if he buys it, he doesn't combine it with his, he sells it to me, and then I go for the hardship, and I get the approval to build on this tiny lot. That's.
Yeah, the only thing, though, is that, and Councilman Cole just brought this up, and I have referenced this before, the property is thereby merged and cannot be subdivided. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that is the specific language of this resolution. It is merged and cannot be subdivided. Does that answer your question?
No.
That's exactly the language that's in this resolution.
If you're going to merge them into one lot.
I have the question on that. I don't think this body has any authority to merge anything. That has to go in front of other board to probably merge it.
Not.
No, I feel comfortable that this language is.
I will be highly doubtful that the council can do any decision on the land use, because this is merging or subdivision is a land use related stuff. And this body, I don't think has any authority. I will double check the fact.
Respectfully disagree. Respectfully.
Council President?
Yes,
To Sonia, for any property moving forward, and for this one, as of Wednesday, can we have the tax map included in the resolution? And the address of the property that we're selling? That's all. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Any other comments? Moving on. Ordinance 0.2180, ordinance amending the Township Code to add an address to the list of persons entitled to handicap parking space. Any questions or concerns? 02181, ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a deed of easement and declaration of covenants for the shade tract on the Metuchen Meeting House battlefield. Any comments? Seeing none. 02182, ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a deed of easement and declaration of covenants for the Ferrante tract on the Metuchen Meeting House battlefield. Any comments? Seeing none. Open up to discussion items. Start to my left, Council Member or Councilwoman Schiff Freeman. Sorry.
Now, we have a cultural arts committee. We have a human relations commission. The commission is in the code, is on the same level as the environmental commission, and they're having issues that we're killing ourselves to fill up committees, but we have a commission, and they told me due to different incidents that may have happened in the parade, racial flyers, or they keep telling me all these things that happen. They're saying, why does the administration not want to have a fully operating Human Relations Commission? And they want to know why, if the Environmental Commission has the shirt, they have the logo, so, like, what's the difference? And I can't understand it at all, because there's a difference between a committee and a commission, and they don't feel like they're being treated properly as a commission. And I explained it to them that it's in the code, all right? Now, I'll ask this question, because I always ask this question all the time, but I don't get too much information from it. How much money are we spending legally on the Oprahs? I want to know that. And then my last question that I looked at, and I read over all the information, and the Board of Ed is spending $11.3 million and getting chock full of nuts. They're getting like tons of stuff for that. And we spending $10 million, and all we're getting is a little building. So I just want to know, that's why I would like us to merge together do better with the Board of Ed, because it seems like they spend their money better than we spend our money. Because I read everything that they received on that, and then I compared it to ours, and it was like, whoa, big difference at all. What else? We went to the bunch of celebrations this weekend, 76th anniversary of India. We went to the Pakistani parade, and we had a great time there. And we can tell Sam Khan was surely missed. That energy, that vibrance that he has, and all that, and making sure everyone you came in, like he was that welcoming, strong guy there. So that was a very, very good day. The weather was excellent. And it just felt like, you could just feel somebody when they're not there at all. Then, I don't know how many people went to it, but the Jets organization, they had a fundraiser they did a cornhole thing over there. I didn't do the cornhole, but I didn't mind donating. And, it was very vibrant. They had the cheerleaders and some of the parents over there working at the Elks, but it was a very, very good place at all. So I just want to go back to the Human Relations Commission and give them some good, legitimate answers, or, like while they're being treated like a stepchild, when in the course of things that's happening now and the negative publicity that we're receiving from Edison, I don't understand why we wouldn't gravitate to that particular group, and move them right along, place people on the committees. And if you read the ordinance and stuff, it says about education, all those things I added in there to be a plus at all. So I'm very, very disappointed that I have to go to them each and every week. And I don't like to play kiddie games and immature. I don't like to play those kind of games with people. I like to tell them, this is in our code. Why are we not following our code? Why are we busy running around filling up committees and not completing the work we need to do on our commission? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shiv Freeman. Councilmember Patil.
Okay, I think, I'll have a quick couple of questions for our chief. I don't know, is it the right thing to ask, but the first one is on the traffic.
Wait a minute.
Are you?
Yeah. The other thing, not to tell the council president how to do his job or anything, but people were very disturbed that someone spoke. If they're not able to speak back, they felt like they were attacked over and over again with AI, GPT, when they were talking about, I think, broadband or something they were talking about, and they thought it was not fair of them not being able to come back up, and refute themselves. If you're going to say stuff to someone, at least allow them the opportunity to say something back to you. That's all I'm saying, because I don't want to look like we the council is badgering senior citizens. That look didn't go well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Chair Freeman. Councilmember Patil.
Chief, I don't know if you will be able to answer on the Grove culvert. There were several emails. I believe you were copied on one email, and then they were forwarded to traffic unit, and then engineering, and it's so
I
many
can certainly
places.
cover that, Councilman. So after consulting with our traffic folks and our engineers, what the recommendations that they are making are that we refresh the existing striping, stop lines, crosswalks, et cetera, what's at that intersection. Install an oversized stop sign on Calvert, being that it's a residential, he doesn't recommend that you have a flashing sign. Oftentimes that creates an adverse effect. Trim any and all overhanging, obstructing views, trees, the brush that's there. So we've also let our DPW know about that. And then go ahead and install intersection sign on Grove saying an approaching intersection, you're approaching an intersection. So between the striping, the signage, and cleaning up the brush, those are the things that we can do in the immediate future.
Sonia, if you look at my email, these are exact things that I had mentioned in the email. So this is not something I'm hearing new that the traffic or the DPW or anybody invented this thing. This was in my original email. These were my asks. And this is almost more than 1.5 months. And here we are in the council meeting. I don't have DPW representation. I don't have a traffic person here to tell me why we were not able to do that in 1.5 months.
We have had personnel that have not been in the office for personal reasons, bereavement of that. So we have a lot of people in and out. It is summertime, so apologize for the delay. But
let me ask few
certainly what
questions.
we wanted to do was,
Yeah, let me ask a few questions on that.
if I may finish,
Sure.
what we certainly wanted to do was to cross-check with all of those professional employees to make this final decision.
Okay, so for a simple traffic issue, which was brought by a council person, even gave the solution, which technically I'm not supposed to just present the problem. I told you to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're saying that all 5 people were absent in 1.5 months?
They were
Engineering
out from
department
time
was-
to time. I'm not going to necessarily have back and forth with you because that would be inappropriate and certainly respectfully. What I do want to create is a very clear process in how we engage with our staff. So following up with
I don't
each
want to
individual
hear,
staff
you know,
members.
Sonia, I
She's
don't want to
talking.
hear
She's talking. Let her finish.
the speech here. That's
Councilman AJ Patil.
no, I respect. Again, I have enough on this. I have 15 emails back and forth on this topic, and I'm getting the same BS again and again. What is the ETA? Give me the date.
With all due respect, I didn't disrespect you, so if you could not use that
What
language.
is the date? Give me the ETA.
So
Okay, point of order. If one person's talking, the other person will respectfully listen. Thank you.
Understand?
ahead, Sonia.
By the way, we are not running this meeting by Robert rules at this point in time.
I understand. But at
Okay,
least
we are not.
respectfully- I get it. Respectfully, you can let
Okay?
her finish.
The meeting should be run by the attorney or the senior most council person. We are literally violating the law here, but I'm still letting you run through that process. My question was very straightforward to police chief. I was expecting him to answer some of those, but if you want to continue, I'll hear, and then I'll ask you the question.
Okay, are you done, Councilman AJ Patil? Okay, go ahead, Sonia. You have the floor.
So what I was just trying to ultimately gain is a process for this. So in the last few weeks, what we did was engage with all of our professionals, that including our engineering, our traffic, our DPW, who did site visits at that. So their recommendation was given to me at the end of last week. Just to circle back to Councilman Patil's concerns, part of which we confirmed some of his concerns, and we certainly wanted to make sure that there was a process. And these are the ultimate recommendations.
Are you done? Okay. Is this a new process we are implementing in the town, or?
Professionally, this is how I would always conduct any process when it comes to traffic studies and.
Okay. Is this process documented in the policy document?
Okay, I will let this be offline. Thank you very much. We'll move on. Do you have any other topics that you want to talk
No,
about?
I do have, this is a councilman who has the full right to ask the question.
The legal said that I am
No.
allowed to cut it off.
Legal is also appointed by the council.
That a councilman can't talk?
No, absolutely not. No, but if the the presiding officer of a meeting believes that an issue should be taken offline, he has the right to do that.
Councilman has a right to speak here, David.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, if you don't agree with that, I think we should get rid of you.
You could just start shouting at me. I knew that was coming.
Now,
Point of
that's-
order,
and
point
I
of
will.
order, point of order.
I
Thank
will.
you.
You know what?
have the-
Point nothing. You don't tell a councilman that he can't speak. I'm tired of this here.
But you are-
You try and
Councilman
shut
David
people
Tucker.
down. No.
Do you
It's
have any other
unacceptable.
discussion?
Absolutely, I have more than that. Okay, that's about the Calvert Avenue. I just need the ETA.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You just need
I
to,
need the ETA. What's the expectation time frame that you will address all these issues?
we can do that next couple weeks.
Give me the date. Couple of weeks means nothing to me.
Okay.
Just give me the date. I'm not asking anything else.
We can get it done by September 15th, sir.
Okay, September 15. I'm noting it down.
Okay. Any other topics?
I have, just hold on. Relax. Police chief, the email that I sent about the community wants to meet, about the complaints, about the break-ins, those type of things, it's not one area, there are multiple areas in a town. Are we aware, is there a pattern or what we are doing, any increase patrolling or any of those things?
Councilman, yes, there is. Actually, there's a very comprehensive plan that I have put together with other professionals. And I'd be more than happy to share that with the governing body offline. I certainly don't want to compromise anything that we have in place.
Understood.
But
Yeah.
I am certainly receptive, and I do speak to, as you know, I speak to a lot of the residents on a daily basis, whether it be via telephone or email.
Sounds good. Is there a way we can set up that meeting? The neighborhood is asking.
Sure, we'll be in contact, and I'll make myself available at any time. And obviously, we'll go through the business administrator and through the mayor's office.
Thank you, sir. And I have full faith. We have the finest EPD department. I'm really proud of this department. It's just that we need to eliminate the misconception, the rumors, etc. And that's why I'm asking,
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Those are only the two questions for you. I have now the third question. Again, I don't have the not for you, DPW. I don't know who wants to, attorney, you want to take the notes?
I can take the notes.
Okay. Elizabeth and Compton Avenue, cleanup. There's also 2 months pending.
Which one's the streets?
Elizabeth and Compton Avenue.
Elizabeth and Compton, okay.
Yep.
Clean up.
And this is also an email shared with BA. It's almost now same 1.5 months, 2 months, and I only get the forwards. And I expect some update by Wednesday on the ETAs of all of these. Farmhaven speed hump. We have multiple emails on the same topic. I don't know why our engineering department head, this is disrespect to the council who has asked him to be present in the council meeting to answer all these questions. But again, this is something I need an answer by Wednesday. We were able to remove 2 speed humps, but the 1 speed hump is still hanging there.
Okay.
The next one is the truck parking. My council colleague did bring that up, and I was in that neighborhood, Akbar. There are a lot of trucks that are parked.
Yes.
They are with gasoline. They are saying they are empty, but they could be empty. But this is very dangerous situation. And again, I don't know why we are failing our enforcement on this front. So, attorney, my question is,
You didn't understand what you were saying about the trucks and the gasoline up by Akbar? I've been complaining about that. He knows I've been complaining about that for a month because that's a dangerous situation.
Just to clarify, are you on DPW or this is for enforcement?
engineering.
That's for enforcement.
Okay, all right, because they were not requested to be here tonight, but if you would like clarification on enforcement, then I can certainly circle back with the chief and potentially the health department.
Understood, but what actually all this department, the enforcement also rolls up under the sleeves of engineering department. That's the reason I said I would prefer the head to be here rather than asking individual department person there. Uh, The striping, did we get the striping machine? Yes, no?
Sonia, did we get a striping machine?
We did.
We did. Did we paint all the intersections around the schools? School is going to start in 1 week.
I'd have to confirm with that, because the reason I say that is because it could be either the current contractor, which we've also been engaging to, for example, use some of the bike paths, bike lanes, or this may be a DPW. So let me just get that answer for you tomorrow.
Okay, and are we comfortable will be done that before the school start? Because we are running out of time. We have 2 weeks, 3 weeks left. Are, on the same one, because the striping machine, I did speak to DPW director. He was kind enough to call me, and he did say that he won't be able to come. So thank you, Ray, if you're listening. However, when I asked him about the striping, and he said the DPW employees are trying that out, and if I get the heads up or approval from administration, he will be able to do the culvert intersection work. I did tell him to speak to you, Sonia. I don't know where it.
Again, that could be with our current road contractor, or it could be with DPW. So I have to confirm exactly who could get it done quicker, quite frankly. So if our road contractors currently out there, which they were able to do bike paths and bike lanes. So it's a matter of feasibility. If they're out there, they're mobilized, we've used them. So that's where I want to confirm with our engineering staff, if that may be something that they could do while they're out there already.
Okay. Another question for you, Sonia, is how many projects are done? I have several questions. I have a question to attorney as well.
No, I just wanted to ask one question too. Where the other two council people go?
Councilwoman, can we please just observe?
No,
council?
I'm no, because it's disrespectful. I want to know where both the council people, and I think it's disrespectful to the people.
I don't know, they didn't answer to me. I'm sorry. All right, moving.
Could you repeat your question again? I'm sorry.
My question was, how many projects, okay, before you came in the office or the new administration came in office, how many projects were in progress and they are now on hold or never made to the council, if it is a redevelopment or planning and zoning? Again, you may not have answer right now, but there are several outstanding projects. They are in pipeline, but they never made to any board or anything. There are reasons, and that's why I wanted engineering head to be here so that I can ask him face to face what the issue there is. But you can just take that question and get back to me on that one. And I have the rest of, okay. HDL rollout, I did test. Happy to see some progress. However, I don't think rollout is complete. I do see
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you
I don't
repeat
see
that?
the rollout is complete. I do see the entries all the way through 2012. However, the property and permits are not linked. If you go on HDL portal, if you select the property, type my home address, you will get the property name and it will tell you all the permits or anything happened to that property. Correct?
Okay,
If
yes.
you do that, it doesn't show up. But if I go in permit and if I search the address, you will see the permits. However, for the newer permits, they are linked. The property and the permits are linked. Whereas for the older record, they are not linked. They are inconsistent.
The permits are tied to the address. So the
Correct.
old permits was through a manual setting and scanning.
Understood. No, those are there, and I'm not saying
Okay.
that those are not there. It's only that regardless where I search, whether I say on the property or I search on the permit and put an address, both should give me the consistent result in terms of the permit. They are
Understood.
not. They are disconnected there. So if you can work that out on whoever the vendor working. Again, it's a good job there, except the logo on the home page is a little weird. if you go on the state website, it shows the logo is not proper. When you click on Edison Township, the logo is gone and it has our website something, logo Edison Township, which is also not a great thing, but that can be fixed. The other question on the Kilmer Road Park, what's happening there? There is a pile of soil. This is the peak season for cricket. That's probably 10 feet high now, the Kilmer Road Park.
I can certainly pass that on to our departments.
Okay, so again, people lost the whole season. We are short of the fields, and this is something, just a pile of soil there. I don't know why we are raising that field. It should have been flattened, and I don't know, again, that's not a good work done there. Amber Avenue, the road is cut right in the middle. We have the road restoration ordinance. I don't know, who is closing this road permits? Again, question to engineering department, they just patched the road, main Amboy Avenue road. They cut in the middle, it's patched, they violated our ordinance of not leveling or flattening up. So that's a concern. Again, hopefully I'll have answer on that. Amboy Avenue Jackson, the owners, all the homeowners were here, they were asking the traffic study. I don't know, the answers were not given properly. I don't know that traffic study was shared, and hopefully their concern is resolved. But again, that is one of the takeaway if you want to take it. And the last one for administration is Oak Tree Road signal. Do we have any notification to anyone there in that neighborhood? There is a signal they are putting in. They demolished one house, probably two houses. One is in the corner as well. I don't know what's happening. There is road work, but nobody knows in that neighborhood what's exactly is happening there.
This is regarding a traffic signal?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, rest of the questions are to the attorney now, assuming you are the land use expert here. Because even though we disagreed on certain things, but I'm going to ask you those questions.
Okay.
Councilman Pato? You can ask.
You want to ask questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, who owns this property where mayor has announced the senior center?
Who owns what property, I'm sorry?
I
Not
can
the
answer
Toad
that
Center, the
question.
North Edison,
I can answer the first aid squad.
First Aid Squad. Do they own it or it is a township property?
I believe that, I can confirm that, but I believe they don't own, what is that?
The town, Edison Municipal doesn't own it.
Correct, it's a first aid squad.
No, the first aid squad doesn't own it.
We'll look into it.
Well, let me look into it before we can answer that question.
Sure.
Okay, because we already announced, I think, I saw somewhere else that mayor wants to put a senior center there. So I have a question there, who owns it?
Who owns the land? Got it. I'll look into it.
And how big the property, so we can really see that there is a senior center we can put in there. It's a New Door Road, it's a busy intersection. Wright School is right next to it, and I don't know, again, I'm not the expert to say in terms of the traffic study is the right place to do it. But the two things you can find out, who owns the property and how big the property is.
You got it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Now, my next question, probably it will take some time from you, redevelopment. What's the process of the redevelopment in this town? Is this, again, I will come back on, is the change from where Mayor Lanky was in office versus where Mayor Joshi is in office? What is the typical?
What is the process for what? I'm sorry.
Redevelopment?
The redevelopment process? Just generally?
In general.
Generally, the redevelopment process starts with a resolution from council asking the planning board to undergo a study, to determine whether the area meets the statutory criteria for an area in need of redevelopment, after which comes back to council for a designation as an area in need of redevelopment. Thereafter, you may adopt a redevelopment plan, and after redevelopment plan, you may designate a redeveloper, and then enter into a redevelopment agreement, which could then also include a financial agreement, but it doesn't have to.
How many times it comes to the council?
I'm sorry?
How many times it will come to the council for
About 4 or
approval
5 times in the process.
in the process?
Yeah.
The first one is about sending it to the planning board to study this area is in need of redevelopment.
Correct.
That's the first time. When the planning board says, yes, this area satisfies all the criterias, it can be designated as a redevelopment. It comes back to the council. Council adopts, it sends back to the planning board for planning purpose, like whoever is the redeveloper can show their plan, et cetera. to the
Right,
planning
site plan, yes, site plan approval. That's different.
Correct,
Yes,
the
correct.
site
I didn't
plan.
mention that, but site plan approval. is
Once
correct.
the planning board approves the plan, which is in nutshell is what actually the property is going to be or what the project is going to be. It has all the bells and whistles, and if it is a commercial, it's going to show it's a commercial property. If it's a residential, it's going to show residential property. Planning board approves, it comes back to the council to approve.
After site plan approval? No, no, you're out. No, that site plan approval is after all of the council approvals.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you please go back and look at the Thomas Place?
Thomas Place?
Yes.
Okay.
This body has approved that project at least, to my knowledge, 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
No change in the plan, which keeps coming back here and keeps going to the planning board. Planning board did approve way back, I believe in 21 or 22, 21. No, not 21, 2019 or 21.
Okay.
We adopted, again, we sent it back saying it looks good.
Here, hang on.
That's why I printed the packet here.
Okay.
It came back again a month ago.
I mean, maybe an amendment to a redevelopment plan?
None.
Okay,
I have the documents. I printed this.
okay.
And this is where my question was to engineering. It's not just one project. I have several projects that falling in that category. So is there any process change that is forcing a redeveloper to come back here and pay the engineering fees and pay the attorney fees and continue that rolling?
Well, what I would say is that what I've laid out is a very general process. What, if you have specific projects that you have questions about, I'd be happy to look into any project that you ask me
I
about.
have 2 of them. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me the projects and we'll give you a status as to where they are.
Yep.
Yeah,
I will.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because that is something, we wanted to ask the question, but we said, okay, just, leave that one. Now, the last one, which is very tricky, and I think your office is representing the Edison Township, is 31 Fox Road. Someone without a permit has built structure on the township property. There is no permit on that lot or block. Yet the township did not act swiftly to remove that structure.
I'll look into it.
Right. No, you can look into that. This is actually, your office has 100 communication on this matter. However, my question is, if any citizen tries to extend a house more than 500 feet, the township will step in there and say, hey, where is your permit? Otherwise, they will issue the summons. In fact, I have one email from the zoning person who had threatened a resident that they will demolish the structure because the permits were not in place. Whereas this property, again, I don't know if there were any linkage of the original owner. I don't want to punish. I'm not saying that current owner has any issues, but whoever he bought from had some linkage in the town, and that's why this happened. So my ask is, what is the action plan to correct this? Will you be able to come back by?
I'll certainly try. What I would encourage you, Councilman, is that if you have questions, you've had many questions this evening, feel free to email. We have communication with many council members. If you feel that there are issues that you want to address so that we're prepared for a council meeting.
Understood.
We're happy to do that.
Understood.
Yeah.
But, I normally follow the, I would say, the council protocol. I always send it to administration, and they can forward it where they want to forward.
True, but if you have legal questions, though,
still
as your
forward to
legal
her.
counsel, you can come directly to
Okay.
me, because that, I sit in a dual role, advising both council and administration. So you have unfettered access to ask me any question you
Okay.
have. Many council members take advantage of that.
Sounds good. That's fair enough, because typically I don't bypass. Regardless of anything is, I always go to that, and you have seen that. I always send an email to you. She can forward wherever she wants to forward. Doesn't matter to me. But right now it is going in round robin, and that's where I wanted to ask this question on the council dais, because, hey, nothing is, that's why I never prepared this many questions. In last 8 years, this is the first time I'm asking this question because we are hitting the dead end. Nothing is getting done. The simple things are not getting done. And I'm at that level saying, I need to bring this to the council dais. Now let the people listen. So I'm not doing disservice to them, but they are heard on this council dais and their problems are resolved. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Member Patil, Councilmember Rusher.
Lights are out.
Lights went out.
It's time to go, sorry.
Right, I start talking, lights go out. I don't know. All right, I'll start off on a positive note. I'd have to say that whoever came up with the design, whether it's the mayor, the business administrator, or DPW, for the plantings up at the North Side Library, I'm glad that my council colleague to my left here has left, because if he goes by and he sees what you did there, he's going to be very jealous. You guys did a great job with that one. That actually looks really nice up there now. A resident texted me, and they found a solution to a question that I asked. So I asked, I don't know, 8 months ago or something, if I could get a list of all the take-home cars and where they were being taken home. Somebody texted me today saying that since we have a GPS tracking system, if we can just get a list of all cars not on the property here at 1 a.m. So if we could just get that list, do I refer to my council colleague as?
No,
Just council colleague,
just council.
okay. Or acting, all right, that's where I was going. To the business administrator, I have a problem accessing old data, or should I say emails. So when I'm looking for something on my phone, now, prior to this administration, I could go back and pull up emails from 2 years ago on my phone. And what I was told was I have to use my laptop. So I would like to just say that that's the wrong response. The administration somehow needs to be able to get my device so that it can access those older emails.
The issue is that all of the old emails get archived. So even myself, I can't go back and search old emails on my phone. I actually have to go to a laptop, and it has to do with the storage.
Well, okay, here's my question. Prior administration, I was able to go back and look at stuff from 2 years, right? I am not an IT person, right? That's not my job. My job is to be able to access that data. So what I'm saying is I use my phone. My laptop does not fit in my pocket. So I'm saying the administration somehow has to come up with a way, right, where I could access my data. Okay, the archiving, your storage, these are all issues that you have, and as an administration, you guys have to work out. But all I know is that I had access prior to this administration, and I'm saying I want my access back. That was 2. Number 3, American Water. We talked about the money, right? And I do remember having conversations about that. I'd like to know when that was settled. I'd like to know where that money went, in what account, the account number, and then what was billed against that account number. Because from what I understood, right, and maybe Ken can correct me if I'm wrong, when American Water left, American Water was owed $3 million in receivable money that they did not receive yet from the ratepayers, and the township ended up collecting the $3 million. So there was $3 million, and if you say we settled it for 2, then that should have been put into an account, right, that would have went to fund, well, that's what I'm looking to find out.
Yeah, no, the revenue that we collected from the receivables just went into water revenue. That was part of the water utility budget for that year,
Okay, well, right, what I'm looking for is you assign everything a number, right?
Yes, yeah, it's
Okay.
just a general revenue account. I can get you
Okay.
that account number.
Right, so when I get that account number, I'd like to see that money that was deposited in there. I'd like to know that it was in there and it was spent on
Yeah,
water.
and it wouldn't be one lump sum. This would be on an ongoing basis as we're billing and collecting people.
Okay, but a printout through the computer system should be fairly simple.
Okay.
Okay, three, right, the bike lanes. I've seen pictures where we have the bike and the bike is in the street. And, well, I mean, my generation, we didn't need that, right? You knew enough that when you passed your driver's exam, that you were not supposed to run over the bicyclist. But I do understand that the new generation needs a little bit more prodding, a little bit more signage. But to me, it just didn't make a lot of sense to put it in the middle of the road as opposed to on the side of the road, which I did notice somewhere else. But and somebody posted a picture on Facebook. I happened to comment that was a mistake because I think it was supposed to be in the shoulder, not in the road.
The actual striping itself was done correctly. When it's in the middle of the road, it's because it's a shared lane. Rather, this administration wants a dedicated bike path, so that's why the corrections are being made, so that we do have a dedicated, as you
So
mentioned.
it was a mistake.
So we are correcting that in order to make a dedicated bike path and moving some lanes, the middle
No.
over, just to create the equal amount of space for both vehicular traffic and the bike lanes.
No, my question was that there was a picture, right? There was a shoulder. I'll call it a shoulder, right? In today's modern world, we call it a bike lane. But in my day and time, it was called a shoulder. So there was a shoulder.
It's still called a shoulder, I think.
Okay, and then there was the line, and then there was the lane that the cars were in, and that's where the cyclist picture was in there as opposed to being on the.
Pressure, if you don't mind. I think they said that if they were going to correct it, and they're actually going to create a dedicated bike lane on the shoulders.
That was a mistake, right?
Yeah, I believe they're correcting
Okay,
that, right?
because I commented that it was a mistake, and I was sitting there going like this. Oh, I'm hoping it was a mistake, but okay.
I think this is why I mentioned earlier that this was a beginning of a journey where we're going to be building bike paths throughout the town, and I'm glad we made it early because now we can, learn not to do that again. And moving forward, at least, and I believe this was supposed to be fixed on the contractor's time. if I'm
Yes,
not-
our current road vendor is the one that's doing all of the improvements.
Okay. Bike lane GPS. Oh, okay. Here's a tough one. And I don't even know if this is true. But a resident told me that we had the issue with the animal shelter, and the veterinary did a report. And now the vet that we use, we're no longer using. Are we still using the vet that we've always used?
We're no longer using that vet. The contract expired at the end of July. So we are going through the bidding process
Okay,
to
can
go
I
out
get a-
for veterinary services.
Can I get a copy of the report that they made? Because what I heard was, right, they're not being renewed because the report was unfavorable to the township or the administration or whatever, so forth. So the vet makes a report when they come. Can we just get a copy?
I would just defer to legal. I don't know if there's a confidentiality agreement with regard to that report. So I would just defer to legal if that's something that we could provide to the
David,
council. And
you're
if we
telling me
can,
that-
certainly
right,
we
You're
will.
telling me that we would approve veterinary services, we would approve stuff like that, but for confidentiality reasons, a council person doesn't have access?
I didn't
He
say,
didn't say
I
that.
didn't say that.
Councilman, let's do this. Why don't you, if you could just send me the report.
Sure.
I will look to see if there's any reason that you couldn't see it. I can't think of one as I sit here, but I'd like to see what it actually is and then forward it to you. If there's some reason why I can't, I will call you and let you know why, or write to you, either way.
Right, you know I'm reasonable if it really is
Yeah, and
something
just
that-
a point of
If there's something, I just have
clarification.
I have to see the document. I just, in an abundance of caution, let me look at the document and I'll send it your way.
Okay. Again, I was impressed with the Northside Library. But that would be it, council colleague, acting council president.
And as for me, I just wanted to mention two things. The one, at the master plan committee hearing, at the planning board hearing during the master plan, Clara Barton brought up the issue of pedestrian crossing, and we had a discussion during the break. And one of the things that was brought up was creating a traffic table near the coffee house and the ice cream shop. And mainly because I think, as Councilwoman Joyce Ship Freeman noticed, and I noticed it as well, is that in Edison, when we stop at the crosswalk to cross, none of the cars stop. And that is an issue of design. And you notice that when you go to Metuchen, Metuchen has a traffic table at the crossing near the train station. And it just simply tells the driver, hey, there's a crossing coming, people will be crossing here. And it's not something, it essentially allows the driver to be more mindful of the pedestrian. So I think that is something the engineering is looking into it for me, and I'm hoping we hear back something soon. Also, the other thing I had concern about was during the planning board, the supercharged parking got me worried about the redevelopment plan of the old Hertz lot, to say the least. And we have a chunk of property there where we can do whatever we want, and then a chunk of property that the developer has the right to. And I asked for the maps from the engineering to see if we can come up with some another ideas instead of just turning it into a big parking lot, which is what it seems to be turning into, as if we're piecemealing each different individual lots. And I would like to create something more pedestrian-friendly where we can have a pedestrian zones and we can do stuff while walking. But again, this is a long shot. It might never work out, but at least we would like to try. That's it for me.
Council President, I mean, well, I'm used to
You can
saying
use it, that's
I'm used to saying it anyway.
Go ahead.
Councilman Nick Patel. Next time, I will call on a point of order because it was very rude and disrespectful to insinuate that I'm receiving text. That's how I speak. Councilman Coyle was very rude. I've been informed that I thought that was very rude, the behavior, and I thought somebody, would say something about that disrespectful behavior.
You're more than in your right to just call that out. But at this point, I would like to
I have
call
the,
for.
I have the two questions, actually.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a question to attorney. The Middlesex Water Company, I think, I don't know, they send a letter, but what I heard is they're increasing their rate by 31%. Is this a utility company or how that works? Who has the jurisdiction to control the rate? Do they need approval from state or any body or anything?
I will certainly look into that. Get
Okay,
back to you.
thank you. Yeah, if you can check, because resident did ask me to question that, because this is 31% is a steep increase. The other one is on, thank you for this, explanation. I had a similar concern on the bike stuff is right in the middle of the road. But have you done any traffic study around that one? Especially I have two intersections. They're really difficult now to make the left turn and right turn, especially if you look at the Maples community. There are two bike lanes on the two sides. Earlier, driver used to cross when someone is making a left. Right now, the line is all the way going towards the new door. So it's backing out. So hopefully we are solving one problem. We are trying to do good thing, but at the same time, we are creating some other issue. So if you can please look into that, especially the busy intersections, where there are left and right turns and there are bike lanes, and that could impact this one.
We will.
And the last one for tonight is Amazon. There are so many emails back and forth. We are hitting the dead end. I don't know, why we are not able to enforce the regulations with the Amazon. At least we should be able to answer to the resident, what we are doing. Because Lisa keeps sending email, and I kind of feel helpless at this point in time. That as a council person, I'm not able to do anything. And last but not least, if I've said something, Sonia, apologies. I'm not the rude person. I don't raise my voice, but if you felt offended, apologies. Thank you.
On that note, I'm going to call for adjournment.
Meeting to adjourn.
Second.
All in agreement? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.
Hey, listen, my husband rides a bike. Don't run him over. He's old.